All right, so we are going to kick off with the 2021 Ideology Christmas. And this is just, I always love to show the muffin tin, but we're actually gonna come back to all the Trinkety Bits, right? Let me move this out of the way. I'll set this aside. We're gonna go into really a lot of the foundations. There's a lot of great products. I've got them all over here off to the side. I'll bring them in and talk about it. I'll do my best to answer questions as we go, but most of your questions will be answered as we get into the makes, right? So we're going to start with the paper, and the paper, of course, Ideology backdrops. Now, backdrops, these are 6x10 sheets. They're double-sided cardstock. And the cool thing about this, of course, is this is really the future of the Ideology paper. I've said this many times all year. We are no longer doing paper pads. So whether they were 12x12, 8x8, all of those paper pads have been retired. So you can still get them. They're available in certain stores. So if you had a favorite, now's your chance to get them. But trust me when I say that the backdrops are a great replacement for that. It's the same great quality paper, same double-sided, same graphics, but it really provides more of a function in the ideology world. There are plenty of people that do scrapbook paper, paper for card makers. There's all sorts of different papers. This was about creating just a paper size that would create great backgrounds for vignettes or mixed media, great for journal making, accordion books, all sorts. And that's why we went with just a random size of 6x10 because, well, that's what I wanted to do. So this, you can see that anytime you look for the graphics or you look online, we'll always show you the fronts and backs. The fronts and backs are different. There is one sheet of each of the designs in each pack of backdrops. What I love, well, obviously I saw many of the comments about the candy right away because, well, it's so good. This is actually a tin that I have. This is a tin that I have out in the dining room. This was a round candy tin that Chris, I've told you, he's a graphics guru, was able to scan a round tin, actually rolled it across his scanner because I love the graphics of this candy tin. Isn't that cool? I mean, you can even see the seam of the metal. Absolutely perfect graphics, and I love this backdrop paper. Of course, in this one, we provided a lot of different confectionery ledgers, receipts, things that really gave you a very festive holiday vibe. And you'll see throughout the whole pack, there's so many different unique things for different styles. Like this one just happens to be a red book cover, right? So not everything is receipts and graphics. There's just stuff that maybe you just want a solid background, or maybe you want one of these awesome plaids. This is from Paula. This is actually a tin that she had that we scanned in and used art. This is a ticket that I had. And this ticket's like this big, but I like things that are somewhat shocking, giant. There's game cards. You're gonna see just a bit of different background paper. This is wrapping from a gift box. Look at that great, wonderful ticking fabric. I love the texture of this as well. Receipts, you're gonna see there's a little bit of gingham. I love this. This is from a vintage scout book, right? That just kind of talked about the different trees for scouts. I loved it. And all of this great vintage vibe, that's all Chris, right? We start with vintage ephemera, but he makes it look like perfect, right? So we've got marble paper, calendars. I mean, you get the gist. There's so many different things. There's just something in here for everyone. And we really try to do that for backdrops where they aren't themed, right? They're not something where if you didn't like flowers or birds or French industrial or dapper, that's not what backdrops are about anymore. They're going to be a little eclectic. Maybe it's ephemera based, maybe it isn't, right? So I love this. We talked about this. Like, so this is a receipt from 1905, and this is a confectionery, but look at that on the bottom. Right? I should have started with that because it's the best we can do. Everyone's doing the best. So you can see there's crackle. Look at that red wood grain. I mean, you can go on and on. Some candy stripes. There's just a great mix for, look at that one. Oh, so I like to share the backdrops because often you're going to see the makes and you're going to see the background and think, oh, wow, is that, how'd they get that crackle effect or wood grain? Sometimes it's texture. A lot of times it's the Ideology backdrops. Now, we did one for Halloween and Christmas. Both of these are seasonal, but we also have backdrops in the everyday line. But what I always try to remind you of is many of these patterns and prints can be used all year, right? So you'll see like a cabinet card or wood. These are things that you can use just throughout. Like that would be great for Valentine's Day if you didn't use it, right? Or plaid if you like to do a lot of outdoors things. So love that. All right. Next up, we're going to talk about worn wallpaper. This is one of Paula's favorites. I just kind of let her run with this because, well, she's very particular in how it looks, and I appreciate that because the result is magic. So this year, for worn wallpaper, in addition to the sheets of wallpaper, we also included these clippings of that. Now, worn wallpaper, it's not a double-sided paper. It's actually a single-sided paper, but the paper itself, I'll try to hold that up, it has a texture to it, like wallpaper, right? So this is not adhesive backed or gummed. We just call it that because it is inspired by worn wallpaper or wrapping paper, okay? But what we did different this year, and so I wanted to start with this sheet just to show you previous years, is we have crossed over to the dark side, right? Paula, we really had a good time with the vintage look that we did for Halloween. And as we did Christmas, we're like, you know what? We are doing it again. So previous year's Christmas, and there's only a few similarities in between the packs. The poinsettia happens to be one, but most of this is new designs. But we kept this stuff very, very clean. But I think for Christmas, especially when you're doing makes, we wanted to create that instant vintage nostalgia. Now, worn wallpaper, you're going to see you do get 2 sheets of each design, right? Because it is just single-sided. But this could be cut, torn. You'll see from the makes how the makers use it. But we, look at that, like just from a vintage gift wrap, the candy cane stripe. But I love all the imperfections. You're going to see the little staining. So I wouldn't say it's a dark vibe, but it's definitely grungy. But if you're using it in the background, like even this Christmas Village, so beautiful. This is also one that was in previous years, but previous years been completely clean, right? So I love what it did to that pink and mint. Little patterns. It's all about scale when it comes to creating this. Look at this one. I love all the greens. And we also put in, like you'll notice these vertical stripes that run through this. Again, just another effect that we wanted to add because I think it definitely gives more of that wallpaper vibe, especially having these little creases. We just go for it. So a lot of this stuff is really from vintage wrapping paper, gift boxes, whatever. But these cut pieces are also really cool. They're made out of the same wallpaper kind of material, that worn wallpaper. There you go. You can see that texture a little bit better. But wonderful die cut pieces. They don't have a giant bleed around them, so you can use them for collage. These also make great just tags if you want to punch them, put them on gift wrap. You can also see these wonderful trims. These are great for seams in a mini book, or if you're doing a collage and you need a great way to kind of connect one paper element to another. So we have this. So really pleased with this. You know me, I love a good grunge. So I'm happy that this year. And I try to point out those details because you might be one of those makers that haven't used what you got last year. Well, if you want to create this effect from the stuff you have last year, use your distress inks, oxides, sprays to do that. But you'll find that I think this new look and feel of the worn wallpaper definitely has more of a cohesive vibe with everything that we're doing for the season. All right, so as we get into paper, I talk about this all the time, that there are different things of paper. And I say things meaning there's different styles. We have stuff called ephemera, we have layers, and we have baseboards. And I talked about this for Halloween, and I also talk about that at Christmas. So the difference between these really is the substrate. It's also the art, but more importantly, the substrate. Ephemera is like die cut paper, if you will. Like take our paper pads, for example, the backdrops, right? And you take that paper that's in there, that's really pretty consistent to ephemera. Ephemera is always going to be single-sided, but there's so many different die cut pieces. We really try on our ephemera to give you a great variety. We try to not have that halo around things. That's where Chris works tirelessly to take real vintage graphics and clean them up and provide bleeds where we don't have that white halo around them. What we've done this year for ephemera for all the releases is that we've combined scale. Normally we would do an ephemera pack and we would do a snippets version of the same, which are mini. This year we decided just to kind of mix them. So you'll see in the ephemera that you're going to have, not everything is duplicated, but some things you'll have duplicates that will be like, say, flashcards. There you go, there's a good example. Where you might have a regular size and a mini size. So you might find some things in there that are mini. Let's just take like this little ruler strip, this little tape measure, right? There's a mini one as well, because you might want to be doing small things or need some detail. And so I think that provides a much better value. Obviously we can yield more in the ephemera by doing this. There's 75 pieces, but just you can look at the die cut quality of that too, right? So cut even there between the legs, all around the antlers, just cool. I love this tag, this special delivery tag. See that die cut slot out of it. That's what we tried to do with ephemera. There's everything from tickets, because we didn't bring melt caps back this year. I love these when we've done these previous years. We did include some of the art in ephemera. There's great little calendar pieces, and you can see it's all different size things, right? Big and small. There's some trims, just cool, fun elements. And some of these elements we use for other products. But this, of course, is just about getting your collage kind of fodder going, right? Where you can take these pieces and use for all sorts of things. And that's the other thing that I'm excited about when you see the makes. We have makers that really stepped out. We've got everything from cards to mini books to journals to home deck to even a little nod to scrapbook. So you'll see that. Then layers. The difference between layers and ephemera, layers are thicker and they're also coated, meaning it has a kind of a, I would say gloss, right? You could see a gloss finish, but it's a coated paper, still single-sided. These are a much larger scale because the idea for a layer is it's supposed to be a layer in your collage, meaning you would start with this, you could put this on a backdrop and then layer up from that. And by having different substrates and different thicknesses, it does allow you to build a collage with ease, where you have different scale and different components, especially if you're going to work with paper dolls or photos. You can see a lot of big elements. There's some great frames that we do in here because we try to incorporate some die cuts. But again, this is just a thick weight card. Calendar, for example, like December 24th. These you can just pop out because they're die cut. So you can hang this on the book ring. You can do all sorts of different things if you want to use hitch fasteners, jump rings. I mean, look at the detail that we provide in the cuts, right? And again, shout out to Chris. That all has to do with just the bleed of things and keeping that look. Some pointy fingers, some numbers, some postcards. Now these postcards, for those of you that are into die cut and Sizzix, and I talked about the retro TV, these have been scaled that they will fit inside that TV window where you can either have Santa and the reindeer or you can have a winter scene, but you can still use them for all sorts of things. So those are layers. So layers are always going to be a larger scaled element that is coated, okay? Just so you can remember that. I've got a whole pile for Mario. I like that. I like that he just helps kind of pack it up. All right, so there's layers. All right, then we go into baseboards. Now baseboards are printed kind of a book board, right? Because we don't want to say chipboard. It's actually thicker than chipboard. It's super thick stuff. So we refer to it as, look at that. It's like a book board. Can you see how thick that is? So this is a coated board, right? Has some great die cuts. Look at these new frames we did this year. Aren't these cool? These are from like vintage cabinet cards, vintage scrapbooks with a great holiday vibe. Some of them are from postcards where we look at the postcard and we kind of isolate elements. But these are beautiful frames that you can collage in, creates a wonderful foundation for that. You can build dimensional or flat collage in there. We've updated these slide frames. I know many of you love these little slide frames, but look at that little plaid we added to them this year. I think it's a great little mini one. We've had quote chips for many years where you have an entire pack of these. We've now we have to always consolidate different ideas. So we've added a few quote chips to this because we don't have the entire pack, but it still gives you some great quotes to use. You'll see again, there's a couple of melt caps in there, little 2 for $25. These die cut stars because Paula wanted stars. So we have the chipboard stars. And then of course, these elements like tags, labels, and then, well, you know, a favorite, a pointy finger. There's pointy fingers in a lot of things. Pretty much there's a pointy finger in ephemera and layers and baseboards because, well, I like pointy fingers. And I know I'm not alone because there's many makers that love this, but I do like the fact that we now have one in a baseboard. Wasn't sure we could get the detail of that die cut, but we did. Dang, I'm happy. I love it. And you can always see, like a lot of times when if you are purchasing, like maybe you don't have a local store where you can go in and actually see the product, or if you're shopping online, always see if they have that secondary image because we really try to provide like an overview of what's in the package. Sometimes it's spread out like this, sometimes it's an overall collage, but just so you kind of know what you're getting in the package. All right, perfect, thanks. All right, next up, we've got some other paper elements. Of course, we have paper dolls. Now, paper dolls, we try to update the cast every single time we do this for the season, and we've done that again this year. So some of them are going to be some return favorites. Many of these are going to be new. What we've also done with paper dolls this year, you might notice, especially if you have any of the earlier collections, is we've really tried to neutralize the color. We've been doing these now for years, and we've gone from sepia to green to yellow to warm to cool. And we find that more and more makers are loving the whole idea of tinting these, right? You can color these with your inks, your distressed crayons. People use Copics on these. If you do frosted crystal, you can work with a lot of different mediums on there. So you'll notice that it has much more of a consistent, cohesive, neutralized effect. And again, this is something that Chris literally spends, I would say, weeks on, because we take vintage photos that are not cut out. You know, they could be part of a group, a scene, a cabinet card, and he's got to not only go in and clip and isolate that, but then do all the color adjustments and focus, especially because, you know, like this photo wasn't this big. These ladies were probably in a snapshot like this big. And he's got to not only take that, but enlarge it so you still have that wonderful detail in the photos. I'm telling you, this is just a genius. So we've got these ladies in the snow. We also included, oh, these are so charming. We saw some wonderful photo booth, and just, I don't know, they just had such a wonderful merriment quality to them. So we wanted to add those. So in addition to paper dolls, you'll see that there's a couple of little photo booth, little group shot. Look at that class photo. Look at that teacher. She looks delightful. But she's all decked out. But these kids had a good time in the snow. But you'll see there's groups, there's individual kids. Whenever you're looking at your paper dolls, a lot of stuff we really tried to die cut, but we don't require that every piece is removed, so you can pop those pieces out. But you'll see just a great collection of poses. We have so many photos. We buy photos pretty much every single day, but that's because we always want to stay ahead of the game, right? Because we want to have photos for all different seasons. And again, some come back. It's really important that we have different poses where they could be sitting on ephemera. The whole idea is that this could sit on ephemera or a ruler ledge or whatever it is that you're creating, and they all have a wintry Christmas vibe. What a great cast this year. Great cast.
I can vouch for
Beautiful.
the fact that you guys buy them every day.
We do, but that's because it's interesting, because even many people are like, oh, I have photos, you're interested. We just kind of like to look, and when we find what we find, we know it's going to be magic, and we get it because we want it to have, look at how cool he is, how dapper he is. I love when I found this. His bow tie, his little striped pants. So hopefully you guys will enjoy this kind of new color consistency that we're trying to achieve. You know, the kids on the sled. So see, it's die cut. You just punch out those pieces, right? And you'll have all the detail in that sled when you're doing it on the collage. So there you go. Those are the paper dolls. I know there's many people that collect paper dolls year after year, because you have noticed that the cast changes. That's what it is. All right. So I talked about this for Halloween. I'm going to talk about this again for Christmas. So what we're doing for Snippets now is we're really taking Snippets as its own category, meaning it's no longer going to be a smaller version of ephemera, but it is always going to be tiny ephemera, but kind of a unique collection. So for Halloween, we did the curator with all those great little botanist labels and cool specimen labels. For Christmas, we wanted to do a pack of just labels. If you are a collage maker or you do junk journals or planners, you know you can never have too many labels. Usually labels come in a sticker book or a sticker sheet. Again, we didn't want to do that. We wanted to do our own thing. So these Snippets, 120 labels. These are not adhesive backed, right? They're the same ephemera, so you have to glue them down, collage medium, glue stick, whatever you use. But these are all inspired by vintage labels, right? So here's the beauty of this, right? When you look at these labels, there's so many different sizes, large ones, small ones, skinny ones, really tiny ones, right? So these could still, because they're paper, you can still put them around your bottles. You can do stamps, you can do remnant rubs, you can do your own journaling, but we really wanted to give it just that wonderful, these are kind of stuck, that wonderful faded nostalgia of labels, even kind of the pinked edge on the seals, right? And a lot of times on the vintage labels, they're a little off register. These are from vintage labels. They're just scanned in and done. So you'll see a whole collection of, you know, different shades of reds and blues and black. And I think these are going to be perfect. This is a SKU that we plan on keeping in the line throughout the year. It's something that's going to move forward because, again, in the world of collage and creating, that's what we need. We need little labels. I know, I get it. I get it, scrapbook.com. We do need all the labels because so many people are providing different pockets and areas for creating a space to either put down a number, a date, or just an element of collage. Perfect. I agree. Love it. So those are the ephemera Snippets labels. Those are those guys. All right. So next up, I always say that when we talk about seasonal stuff, you kind of get inspired by a previous year, previous collection. And last year, I think it was last year, I'm going to say it was last year, I shared a make around the holiday season. This was the make. It was just a panel that I bought. It's just a wood panel that I bought. And it was actually quite expensive because I had to buy it in the art department. I think they call it like cradle board. So it was like around a $20 panel. But what I did is I went in and took ephemera and collaged it, right? Cut up all different ephemera squares. And I talked about, I think there's still a video on my blog where I talk about using your ephemera and creating collage tiles. And it was a lot of fun. So many of you guys went in and created your own panels. But so many of you also really loved the idea and said, man, this is so much fun to do. It's so great, but it is time consuming. It's great. And I completely agree with you. But it sparked an idea. And it sparked an idea to take this and turn it into, well, a product, turn it into something. So for the holiday season, I went in and tried to replicate this because this was already done. This was already created. And I created a whole nother set of collage tiles. So this is the actual art, just so you can see. Went in, did my gluing, did my crayon, did all of those for these tiles. And then we scanned them in to create this SKU. These are collage tiles. So these are all pre-done tiles, collaged, you saw the originals by hand, and even the crayon. These look dimensional, but they don't feel dimensional because they are just a flat sheet of card. And you're going to see from the makes how cool they could be used, everything from cards to vignettes to almost like quilt-like patchwork backgrounds. So all of these are scanned and it just creates such a cool look with that drop shadow. And you have all these collage tiles. These are going to make great cards if you want to do mini accordion books. You do get 2 each of all the designs of these collage tiles. The other cool thing of the collage tile is the fact that we needed a foundation, a substrate. And you know I'm a huge fan of vignettes because I love the charred look. So these are vignette display panel. The vignette display panel actually allows an even amount of tiles. There are 2 each, so I believe there's enough to do 2 panels if you were going to create that. The panel, just so you can see, it's not as deep as the trays. That's why we call it a panel. Could you use the inside? Yes, and you'll see from the makes that several makers actually use the inside of this to create kind of like a little vignette, but it's also designed where you can use the back. Now, to let you know about the vignettes are all made by hand and charred by hand. I say charred because this is not a wood stain. The reason it's not a wood stain is because maybe you do want to go in and add your own colorants. You want to do oxide spray or paint or ink. We didn't want anything that's going to react with that. So this is actually torched with fire. And that's why each one is completely unique and different, and all the edges are done. And I think that does add a very cool, nostalgic look and feel to it. The display panels, to me, just a perfect timeless art piece, really, because it's a great foundation, something different, again, if you're doing mixed media or art that you can go into. So when it comes to collaging, and we'll talk more about that also in the makes, this whole thing can simply be done with collage medium. I use Distress Collage Medium because it is a matte finish glue. You simply brush it on, stick the tile down, brush it on, stick the tile down, wait till they're all done, cover the entire thing with a thin layer of collage medium. If you don't want brush strokes after you paint it on, quickly go in with your fingers and kind of massage that in. That's a trick I learned from Paula, and that gets rid of the brush strokes. I like the brush strokes because it kind of adds to the nostalgic groove. And then if you want to create that drop shadow in between each tile, just Distress Crayon and a little smudge after your collage medium dries. But I hope you guys like it. I think you're going to be inspired by the makes for sure to see how cool these tiles can be used in so many different ways. Yeah, I'll talk about Paula's message to me once we get into her make. All right? Cool. Thanks, Mario.
You're welcome.
All right. So next we're going to just kind of go into a little bit more of, I'll just say, the oddities, if you will. We definitely like papers and Trinkety Bits. There's so many different things in the world of ideology, and that's what I love. I said that at the very beginning. It's simply the fact that you can do whatever. This whole line is not just one component. It's whatever product idea, and that's why I keep Tracy busy. Well, and Chris and Raina and Laura. Well, the whole team, but you get it. So first up is collage paper. We haven't updated Christmas collage paper probably, I'm going to say, at least 3 years. It could be longer because it was such a favorite. The Christmas collage paper was always this really vibrant collage paper with that big, bold holly, and you guys loved it. That one has been replaced with this new collage paper. I love this one because we still wanted to create that pop of color that everyone loved, but instead of just giving you holly, we actually created this that has a whole different variety of festive greenery. So you can see here, there's that beautiful pine branch, the poinsettia, there is holly, and the berries. And you can see with collage paper, there's also some really cool graphics and typography in the background. There's Yuletide, like from sheet music. There's going to be that wonderful kind of blueprint from a cathedral window, postcard, music. And the thing about collage paper, you just use collage medium on it. If you want to sculpt any of it, you simply just paint over it with a wet brush and just pull this apart. So you never have to go in with scissors to cut this, because it will separate with water, but it will not dissolve with glue. So that's what makes collage paper so cool. So that is the new one. It's just such a beautiful, beautiful paper. And I just want to point it out because, again, if you've been just a fan of the holiday ideology and you're like, oh, okay, you might just look at that and see that holly and go, oh, I already have that. But really, this year, it's a new one. And it's a beauty. It really is. It's a stunner right there. All right. Then we have the sticker book. Sticker book, there's not much updated to it. We still have all the clipping words because we love clipping stickers. These all came out of just different books. This was, again, a Paula task where she just loves to go in and find all these wonderful clippings from old books. But everything is very seasonal or winter related, that used for a lot of great different makes, including cards. Then there is a cool sheet of just labels. I remember these as a kid, those wonderful Christmas labels. So yeah, you have a whole thing that you can use on gifts, or you can still just use them on cards or planners or journals. Then we have this sheet. I do love this sheet. So this sheet just has some fun elements. It's got some border strips. It's got some blank labels. It's got a couple little seals, a nice big wreath, a couple of postage things for a nice postal effect, or again, some colorful clips. So people love stickers, and stickers are really convenient, and I like having a sticker book, so we really try to add some stickers every time. The other thing to note about our stickers, if you see them, they are not glossy, right? Most of the time, they're not like a layer or a baseboard. They don't have a sheen. They do have a coating, though, and that's what makes it really nice. Can you kind of see it's almost satiny? The reason I like to do them this way is it will allow you to go in with a marker and tint it, your distress inks and a blending tool, so it will take color to allow you to tint that sticker, but it's not going to absorb that color and saturate it to where you can't see the writing. So it is nice that it has a little finish on there. Then some other stickers we have, again, a favorite, label stickers. So this is inspired by Label Maker. These are made of plastic. They are adhesive back. So the cool thing about these plastic stickers is it just has that Label Maker vibe. You can see it's got that slight embossed edge on there. All of these are just die cut stickers. You do get 2 sheets of each, and you can peel and stick onto cards. I just like them, but keep in mind they are plastic because, well, we want them to have that look and feel. That's what it's all about. Then we go into rubs. I love rubs. So this is an updated set this year. So this one you can see is very strong in typography. One of the things that we try to do is if something is doing really well and people like it, we try to keep it in the line for a while, but then we always pay attention to what else is coming in the line, and are there ways that we can update different elements in the line to support that. And I'll talk about this next SKU. But that's really became kind of the catalyst for this year's rubs. You can see some really nice big bold typography. We get a lot of people that are card makers, or again, doing journals or planners that just want nice bold words that will stick out over a background. Then we've got some very vintage typography, almost type style, if you will, but I love this all cap type style. And then just some nice phrases or quotes, again, perfect for cards, but in order to do quotes, we have to increase the height, so we can do a skinnier font so you can fit longer quotes. So you get a nice variety of the rubs. There are 2 sheets of the rubs. Both of these sheets are just black, right? So in the past we've done like a sheet black, a sheet white. So I'll just show you when you get the rubs, right? It's 2 of the same. When you use these rubs, my advice, if you're going to just go for one word, or maybe you want the star or something, cut them out. These rubs work. You can use them on paper and metal and glass and chipboard and all sorts of things. But let me give you a very important tip. So You can remember it, you can share it with friends, you can post it in a group when people are saying, my rub-ons don't work. Okay, here's the thing about Remnant Rubs. If you are a fan of distress, or really any ink blending for that matter, inks contain resin, especially distress. Distress has a huge content of resin in it, ink or oxide or sprays. If you are inking a background and you want to apply a rub to an inked background or an inked card, you need to heat set the ink, right? That means a heat tool. If you don't have a heat tool, you could use a hairdryer, but you need to heat set the ink. Even if the ink feels dry to the touch, the resins remain on the surface. And most of the time, the resins don't even ever dry unless it's like weeks later. So if you're doing a background and you want to put a rub over something, you need to heat up. It only takes maybe a minute or so, and that will cure the resin and it will allow your remnant rub to transfer. And that is only on an inked surface. If you use paint, no problem. As long as the paint is dry, it's good to go. If you work on glass or metal, it is important that those surfaces are clean, whether it's glass cleaner or an alcohol wipe. But really, guys, anyone that's used these rubs, they know these work. These transfer. They work to a fault sometimes where you touch the back with your finger and it transfers onto your skin, and now you have like a temporary tattoo until you sand it off. They're designed to work. But the biggest thing I get is that people are trying to use it on an inked card and background, which they're totally designed for that. But you have to remember to heat set that surface so the resin is dry so these will transfer. All right, really, really important, because trust me, I learned the hard way. I'm saying this now as if I knew it. I didn't know it. I mean, Tracy can attest. I would say to him like, these rubs don't work. These rubs don't work. And that was in the early days of the rubs, and I couldn't even figure it out. But it was because, hey, maybe I blended it. And even if it was something I blended earlier in the day, I'm like, well, of course the ink is dry. Yes, the ink is dry, but the resin is not. So it's really good. Oh, thanks. Yeah, work years later. You're totally right. They do. Now, I will say that they're temperature sensitive. Not that you have to store them in like, a hyperbaric chamber. But, if you have them stored, in a shed where it gets really hot and all that, you can compromise the adhesive. So definitely just keep them in your craft space. All right. So the rubs, and we have other rubs in the line too, but the rubs really were kind of designed around this idea. This is something that Paula really wanted to do. She wanted to do mini file folders. And she was very particular on this, and I love that about when Paula contributes to the design process. So the cool thing about these mini file folders, they are die-cut file folders, but as you can see, they are made out of layers material. Meaning, let's rewind to layers. We know it's coated, we know it has a shine, and it has a nice thick surface. Not baseboard, but layers. But these mini file folders, you'll see that there are two sizes, right? There's different tab placements. So they're designed if you wanted to create a mini book, you have the tabs. These are all double-sided. So if you want, you can simply take that folder and you can flip that around. Now we also designed it to where that inside is always going to be revealed, right? Because if you're doing something cool and double-sided and you're going to create a mini book or even a card, you want to see the good, right? And sometimes just the tab isn't enough. So that little reveal was just something fun that Paula wanted to add, and I think it's just a great touch. So all of the folders have that effect. So again, you can use them either way when you're working with it. The set, as you can see like this, is not a matchy-matchy. Yes, we use coordinating patterns, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get a big and small of that same design duo. And so when we were talking about the rubs specifically, we also wanted to make sure that we had rubs that would fit these tabs, that if you were going to do some type of holiday book or holiday mini, that you would have the ability to add all sorts of different text and typography onto these. And Paula did a great make that I can show you during live to really show how to put that in action. All right. Next up, we're going to talk about pocket cards. Now, pocket cards, we've done different journal cards and pocket cards for years, probably about 7 years in Ideology. We used to have a worn binder program. Then when Project Life was all the rage, we had cards that really kind of coordinated with that. What we decided to do, starting with Christmas, and we're going to even continue this into next year, is we've resized the pocket cards and we've reimagined them really. Pocket cards really used to be just some kind of blank background pages, but we're like, okay, we want to create some cards that you can use for junk journaling, card making, collage, scrapbooking, you name it. So each of these cards, you'll see there's a beautiful assortment of these cards. The sizes are 3x2, 3x4, and 3x6. All of the cards are double-sided. They are all unique in the pack, but they all use the same artwork, meaning if we start with the big one, we might crop this to do a 2x3, so they will all coordinate if you're going to do a cohesive project throughout it. Some of them, there's even some labels. I'll just kind of take you through and talk about it. So what we did this year is my good friend Allie Edwards, who I adore, does an amazing thing. Well, she does amazing things all year, but December Daily, for those that are huge fans of December Daily, I love that whole concept. Even though I'm not a scrapbooker, I totally believe in the importance of using your photos and capturing them in your own way. Heidi Swap, same thing. She really just insists on documenting and capturing that. And that's what I love about the scrapbook world. And that's why I've made friends with those people, because I totally appreciate the need to capture a story. And although I don't do layouts, I love the concept of kind of pocket albums. This is a really cool size for an album because it has that really tall linear design. I think it's a 3x8 or 4x8. I'm not specifically sure of the size. December Daily people will know. This is the new album for this year. Allie sent it to me. Thank you again, Allie. I think we just got it yesterday, I think. Yes. Yeah. So this is the new one that she's going to have out. She has all different size albums, but this is that size that really kind of sparked this SKU. So these are size that if you are into December Daily, they will work with the page protectors again that Allie has that have the 2 in a pocket, or these 2. So you'll see these are the 3 sizes, the small one, the long one, and these 2 rectangles. Now the cool thing, of course, as you see as I'm flipping through, you might have a collage one where it looks like it's collage with vintage cello tape because again, Chris works his digital magic. But then what we tried to do on the back of each of those cards is give you part of that background pattern as an all over, right? Because if you are documenting or doing scrapbooking, you want a place to put a photo, and sometimes you're like, I don't want to cover up the whole collage, right? So that's what we've done for each one. So you'll see like this one has that great plaid, so on the back, there's the plaid, right? And I've kind of flipped these around to show you that you don't always have to use the collage. So for example, that's on the back, but on the front, that cool little Christmas cake recipe. There's a label one, so you could do journaling, but it's great. So if you are a December Daily, and there's many people that say, oh, I love to do that, but I love the vintage aesthetic. Well, there you go. Now we've got pocket cards. And Allie does this size album all year as well. So we will have some pocket cards that will come out in the everyday. So I absolutely, absolutely love this. So beautiful album. Isn't that a great color? I love the sparkly stars too. So that's what I did. I just went and threw in some papers just to kind of show you that, see, isn't that great? Already done. All you're going to do is just add your story, your photos, and you're off. So if you haven't checked it out, definitely go to allieedwards.com. Check out December Daily and just kind of see all about it. Just really beautiful. All right. Perfect. So next, as we get into embellishments and trinkets, we certainly have some metals. Now, some stuff we brought back, some stuff we did a little different. So we've got some new tin tops. Now these, of course, are not full tins. It's just a tin top, so a top of that. But this is all vintage graphics from all sorts of packaging that I have, from Christmas snow to ornament hangers to icicles. These just make great embellishments. Where do you see from the makers that they did so many different things with them? Some are background, some actually cut them with tin snips and molded them into something else because it is printed metal. But again, it is a tin top. So there's no base to that. It's really designed to be an embellishment. Then we've got some Flair. We have some mini Flair Christmas. In years past, we've done Christmas Flair, which were bigger. We took a lot of that art, added a few new ones, but now we just did them in mini. So these are smaller than the previous years. You get a variety of sizes. These are basically just metal buttons without the actual pin, right? So these are designed to be gluers. You can glue them or use Pop Dots foam tape that you can dimensionalize and add those to makes or packages. They make a great ornament accessory, so I really love that. And then on the quote Flair, you can see that these, of course, have just vintage quotes. This art was inspired by the sticker book, right? Great when it comes to adding that little bit of graphic. We loved them on those labels, and we're like, oh, we got to use those. So we paired it up with just tiny little quotes. Again, quotes that would be perfect on a mini card series that you made, or if you wanted to use these for ornaments, or you just wanted to stick these on as a packaging embellishment. It's just really charming art and wonderful little holiday quotes, right? 'Tis the season, peace on earth, be of good cheer. They're just really charming and just capture that that sense of nostalgia. So often we'll look at art and be like, oh, we love that for labels. Oh, we should do that as pins too. That's the beauty of kind of developing a collection together. So we've got tin tops, quote Flair, and mini Flair. And you can see the size, really tiny, really tiny. All right. Some other things that we've kind of updated are just a lot of different kind of Trinkety Bits. And I'm going to talk about the package, but I'm also going to bring in my favorite, which I do every year. I have this. I had it for Halloween. I did have to empty out my Halloween one early just for this live. So it's just a muffin tin, but you do you. You do what works for you. But I like to have my embellishments out when I'm making for a season, because all of those little trinkets, it's like a little creative buffet, if you will. It's all right there. If you have some other way to do that, great. But my advice to you is have it in your sight. Have it visible, out of sight, out of mind. So if you have it all tucked away in your little filing system or little labeled bags, that's great, but you might forget to use it. So I think it's really important that you have your little Trinkety Bits out. And of course, I just love the look of this. I think I got this on eBay or Etsy or something. So that stuff is kind of visual. And I'll show you the package and maybe reference it here so I don't have to open all these little Trinkety packages. First up are mini Icicles. We've done Icicles year after year. We've redesigned this one. If you have previous years, use those first, okay? Because these are different, but they're not that different. But I will tell you what we did. We actually thinned out the top, so that top piece is not so wide. We also kind of condensed the Icicles a little bit. This way you could use them on the fronts of the windows. You're gonna see the baseboard windows that we did for Halloween. A lot of makers use them for the holidays, and it just had a better scale to use on those windows or vignettes. And so now you get 4 each of the same design. The cool thing about these, of course, is they are a clear acrylic, right? Flexible, you can glue them. You can cut them with your scissor. They'll cut easy with scissors, so if you need to shrink them down, you can. The other thing, if you want to add a little bit of sparkle, because you can see they are molded to kind of look icy. They have like a texture on one side, they're flat backed on the other to glue. But you can add just that little bit of sparkle to them. Look at that. And that is nothing more than a little bit of glossy accents, right? And a little bit of rock candy glitter, right? Because rock candy is completely clear like sugar, but it has all the different particle sizes, and that just adds a little sparkle. So if you kind of want to up your icy game, go for it, right? Maybe you're going to want to use the new grit paste we did for Christmas just to add, and you'll see the makers did that too. But I just want to point that out. And the details are important during a live, because you might look at that online and be like, yep, have it. And if you do, use that first before you get these, right? The other thing that we brought back are these guys, mirrored stars. But of course, we wanted to reimagine them the best way we could. So for the mirrored stars, what we did is we looked at like what makers were using. These used to have a lot of different sizes, some pretty big stars. So instead of going from big down, we actually went from mid-range to absolutely microscopic, minuscule stars. There are 70 stars in here. These are faceted mirror. So you can see that they come to a point. You see that? I love these. Beautiful faceted star. The sizes, oh gosh, I don't know. I think, well, my pork chop finger should definitely be enough that I can put stars on there. But when you start digging in, I don't even think I can kind of cover the different sizes, but I've got to show you this absolutely teeny tiny one. Okay, it's down here. I just can't pick it up. I could have tweezers, but I'm not going to. All right, look at this little star, you guys. Look at that.
How tiny?
I don't know.
So tiny.
It's beyond tiny. So you can see that it goes from that size down to literally microscopic. I think that this is maybe a 1/4 inch. It might even be smaller, but it is still faceted. It's absolutely remarkable. You can alcohol ink these. You can color these with Copics if you want to tint them. And because the mirror is under the acrylic, they will twinkle and shine beautifully. So yeah, some people don't like to get their bling on. I think for the holiday season, bling it on, people. Bling it on. But they're wonderful. So again, 70 stars, all different sizes, and that is the new mirrored stars. Again, if you're shopping online and you're not necessarily able to go into a store, keep in mind, especially now, this is not shipping until the middle of October. So if you see mirrored stars online, chances are they are previous year's collection. They're still great, but they won't include all those really tiny ones. So something to definitely keep in mind as I'm talking through the products for the live. The next thing that we updated are tiny bells. People love tiny bells, but I'm going to be honest, there's been this bell, and Tracy's still here. She will attest to that. I've asked for this bell for probably 5 years because there's a specific bell that is very vintage that I love, but I will tell you that it was a very expensive bell because it didn't exist tiny. They're big and they were sleigh bells, right? I wanted the whole sleigh bell look. And when I say sleigh bell kind of jingle bell, it's this bell, right? That looks like a top. You guys, any of you nostalgic fans, you'll remember. So usually in a craft store, we have jingle bells, which we still have in tiny bells, but of course ours are antique finish. They come in antique silver and antique brass in the package. They come in different sizes. Then of course we have kind of, I guess, the Liberty Bell, you know, just a regular bell. Again, they come in antique silver and antique brass. We've taken out the giant bells. We've only just done the tiny version of that. And these to make room for this bell. So I'm going to bring these in just so you can see. For this particular bell, this jingle bell, if you will, this sleigh bell, there's actually 2 sizes of this in this package now. So you'll see that I love the look. You can still hang them, right? They have that little hook in the back. They do have a little dinger in there. I mean, they kind of jingle, but not super loud because, well, there's tiny. There's not a lot of room in there. But I love the whole idea of this. I don't give up. And I just keep saying, can we please do the bell? She's like, we have to tool that thing up. It doesn't exist. It's going to cost a lot of money. I'm like, but we'll have them for many years and it will make many people happy, specifically me. And I just love them. And I hope you guys do too, because now in the new tiny bells, now you get like 3 styles of bells, which I think are great because different style bells for different projects. Sometimes you want like, you know, the kind of Liberty Bell to hang off of a ribbon, or sometimes you want to be able to glue a bell in. And some of the jingle bells are nice, and well, this style is also pure nostalgia. So those are, again, the new tiny bells. Important to know if you're looking to get stuff now, these will be shipping with the rest of the release. And then Adornment Snowflakes. We've had snowflakes, again, for many, many years, and they continue to sell out every year. But for these, man, I told you, bling it on for the season. Take a look at these absolutely beautiful Adornment Snowflakes. It's like jewelry. So yes, these have gems encrusted in them. So we really, I found this beautiful Christmas, I think it was a brooch, that I just love the look of it. And it was big. I'm like, wouldn't it be great if we could take that and just make them tiny? And we did. Look at all the detail just in the metalwork. But then all of these, of course, have those crystal rings. They're all the same. They're all the same size in this package. There's 10 of them. But I just think they're absolutely beautiful. You can just see how those stones really sparkle. They've got that loop. If you don't want that, you can cut it off if you're going to glue it down. But you can tie it on, use a tiny pin, a loop pin. They are just beautiful. Okay, someone said Liberty Bell is a church bell. Okay, yeah, you do you. That's totally good. I love the style of really all the bells. But this, so beautiful when you see, and you're right about the church bell. I've got to remember to tell you something about that. I'll tell you about that in another live, right? We'll talk about church bells. All right, so this, you can see that it already has an antique plated finish. That's another thing that's important to know. If you want to antique these, you can certainly go in with your alcohol inks to add a little bit more vintage, or you can go over this with a little bit of distressed crayon if you want to add some white in there and kind of rub that off, but it's just, they're beautiful. I love the Adornment Snowflakes. Then we've got some other classics that came back. We've got Baubles that made another return. These come out only at Christmas. So again, remember, for seasonal, it's one and done, meaning when it's sold out for the season, it won't come back until next year, if it does make its way back. So Baubles, that's what these guys are in that tray. Baubles are beautiful because they are designed to really make some vintage ornaments for the holidays. So unlike a pearl bead and similar to bubbles that we did for Halloween, these don't have a hole in them. So it's nice because if you're going to use them as an embellishment or put them into a tree or anything like that, you just have that ornament that you can put in. You don't have to try to camouflage or hide the hole. I love the look of alcohol ink baubles. They're very simple to do. I'm not going to demo them during this live, but I'll do some demos throughout the season. But essentially, it's just baubles, disposable cups. So I just kind of repurposed some oatmeal cups that I've had from Starbucks. You're going to take your favorite colors of alcohol inks. I use the same palette, well, every single year, but you can use whatever you have, really use whatever. But I like to do Wild Plum for pink, Crimson for red. I like to do Sunshine Yellow for yellow. I love Patina for kind of that vintage teal, turquoise. Lettuce is a magical green. Sailboat Blue to me is the perfect blue. And then a touch of mushroom, right? And mushroom does all that. So You just add them to the cup, a few drops of ink, swirl it around, a little bit of mushroom, swirl it around. And then this year, because I really wanted to create more of a vintage, I'll just bring one up. Can you see how it kind of looks really worn, like mercury glass? Can you see in the color that it's a little, well, it's worn off? So what I did this year is after I made them, I laid them out on a paper towel, and then I just went in with some isopropyl alcohol and a mini mister, right? So this is 91s, you go 91 or higher, and just started misting those and just kind of moving around. I actually used my splat box so they could roll around the splat box, and I just kept misting from a distance, rolling them around, and that just started to kind of erode the color. You can see that. So now they weren't perfectly shiny. They just had a more of an eroded look just by misting this on, because if you just drip it on, it'll dissolve the color. So
those are legit vintage.
They're beautiful. Yeah, they're wonderful just to kind of sit. Well, I mean, they look good just sitting as a little filler. So that was kind of a little, I've done this technique for years, but it's like, hey, how do I make them a little bit more worn? You're right. See, Casey said, always a new idea.
Those look like all the expensive ones that you buy.
I know, but I love those too.
I know you do.
That's right. All right. So other things that came back, we've got our Salvaged Santa and Snowman. These guys are great. You're going to see them in the makes. We've got decorative deer. Again, these come back year after year. Great that if you glitter them, color them, resin them, or alcohol ink them or paint them, they just have a great aesthetic. Our snow globes, love these. These are actually glass with a wooden base. They are not connected, so you insert it, you can put in your whatever collage element, mini trees, anything, glue them shut. They're not designed to be watertight, right? The base is wood, so they're not designed to hold water. They're just designed to be a little shakety shake with glitter or mica, but they're beautiful embellishments, and you're gonna see some clever ideas from the makers for that. Wood slices came back this year. We haven't had wood slices for a couple of years because, well, honestly, it's really a challenge to source the kind of wood that I like, because I just want to use little twigs and branches. I don't actually want just full-on trees. So we just use the scrap branches and have them cut them down so we have very small, very thin wood slices for craft projects. So I do love these wood slices just because of how small and how thin they are. Because on this surface you can do remnant rubs, you can do stamping, you can do inking, you can add embellishments. They're just a favorite, and they make a great foundation for a lot of different elements. Then, let me kind of start clearing some of this up. We're in the home stretch. I have a few more things to talk about. Whew, it's a lot of stuff, a lot of Trinkety Bits. We launched these medals in Halloween, and of course we did the Christmas version this year, so we've got the quote seals. So these are inspired by vintage wax seals. So you've got that kind of molten edge. You can colorize these with crayon or paint to get that text to have a highlight. There's 4 different quotes inside the quote seals. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Always believe in the magic of the season. A thrill of hope. The weary world rejoices, which I love. So again, this could be glued onto a ribbon, maybe that goes around a book, or used as packaging. I would even go as far as to say that you could probably add a bale behind this and use it as a pendant for the season. I love the word plaques. The word plaques, besides the typography, this time what we did is we actually have these words raised instead of recessed. It's a whole new design from this band, so it has a wonderful Art Deco vibe. Raised edge around those rings, so you can go and attach it with fasteners, string, ribbon, but they're wonderful. So you'll see these used on the makes as well. I just love the detail of having the Audi of that, right? And then you've got kind of that texture on the inside. One of my favorite fonts, very Disney inspired. That one is. And then, of course, for Halloween, we launched Confections, right? We did those in the black and white. Of course, we need them for Christmas, so take a look at Confections for Christmas. That perfect peppermint color, right? Not too red, not too pink, just, I don't know. It's peppermint red. It's absolutely a perfect look. Now, the thing to know about Confections, they are made kind of out of a clay resin. They're slightly flexible, but they're not designed to be bendy or twisty because, you know, they're just supposed to be flexible. You're not supposed to eat them. Don't eat them. They're not meant for that. But you're going to see some great makes with this. These can be cut and trimmed with scissors. There's also just these wonderful little mints. These are made by hand, and I love just the attention to detail of rounding those edges. So you have some wonderful little candies. The other thing to know about these, if you want to add a little sparkle for the season, I'll hold up that muffin tin. See, one side is just right out of the package. This side I added just a little sparkle the same way I did the icicles, which of course will be a little glossy accents and rock candy. And by doing that, you really get just such a wonderful candy-like confection vibe on the mints and and the candy sticks. Now when I do those, I just take a little brush, dip it into glossy accents, paint them very quickly, and then I drop it in the jar. So I have my jar open. After I paint it, I throw it in there, give it a little shakety shake, and then just keep doing all of them, and then just take them out with tweezers. So it's just easier than trying to pour it on. Just dump it right in the jar, because by painting the glossy accents on, you're not gooping it up to where you're going to mess up your jar of glitter. So that's how I did those. Love that we have Confections. Then we have some other elements, of course, Woodland Trees. Woodland Trees are making their return. We heard you guys last year. We heard you loud and clear. Last year we only offered this SKU of trees, and these trees sold out so fast because these are made out of a natural sisal. So it's like a rope material which will absorb any kind of colorant. You can color these trees with the new mica stain. You can do your distress stain. You can do oxide. You can do dilutions. You can do food coloring if you want. Any kind of fluid colorant these trees will absorb. And last year we only did this pack, and people wanted this big tree in quantity. And well, we just missed the mark. So we're not going to do that this year. So this year, in addition to this set, which is called Tree Lot, which means you're going to get 1 large, 2 medium, and 2 small trees. The large tree pack is, well, it's just that. It's 3 large trees, the same size as this one. So if you like to do a display, of course, it's on a wood base. It's got a wonderful exposed wire by design, because I like that. You can still trim the tree with your scissor if you want to give it a different shape. When I go into tree making, like everything else, compartmental making, get in tree mode, guys. Get in that mode. Get your trees out. You can have all sorts of different effects, right? If you go in and use stain, right? Stain's going to give you a nice faded look, and I've done all sorts of tutorials. This has the distressed mica flakes on it, right? So I do that. So you can use collage medium or glossy accents with your finger after you color the tree, and then coat that in mica. I've done some that have glitter on them. You'll see that some trees, like for example, these trees, these are done with oxide, right? So you can say your distress oxide spray. This is done with spray stain, and create a little ombre effect by dipping it in some water. So you can do all sorts of unique effects with the trees. And you don't have to make them this color, of course. You know, I love a green tree, but hey, trees could be whatever you want them to be, right? They could be any color of the rainbow. This is on, this was years ago on my blog. You can still find that tutorial, but it's just spraying the tree and dipping it in water to create that wonderful faded effect. And I love them displayed on a ruler. I mean, that is the decor piece. We just set out the tree just to look at that. So they could be any color you want. If you're into real nostalgia and you've got some old funky toy cars or toy trucks, get creative with the trees, right? Tie them onto things. Right here, I just took off the wood base, went out and got a stick, and just glued the stick on there. Right? Drilled a tiny little hole in there and stuck that on. So the cool thing about these trees, people use them. I know you can buy them in a lot of different stores. If you find those, great. The reason we continue to do them in the line is because most of the trees now are made out of PVC, which are plastic. And PVC, of course, is not going to take colorant. So again, this is any kind of fluid colorant. Just like I mentioned, the mica stains will work. Distress spray stains, oxide spray, dilutions, any spray colorant will work, right? They absorb right into that. And I really love the look and feel of having trees, especially for the season. But as with anything, like how do we up our game? Well, I had this vintage tree stand that I have. I have an aluminum Christmas tree on my front porch, and it's a wonderful, cool cast iron tree stand. And I remember contacting Tracy. I said, wouldn't it be cool if we can actually make a tree stand for the tree? Like, if we had a tree, wouldn't it be cool if we actually had, like, I don't know, a mini tree stand? Shut up. So yes, this year we have tree stands. There are 2 in a pack. They are cast out of metal. These don't adjust or turn. I know the original ones do, but this is all formed to create a perfect little tree stand. You can take your tree, you're going to simply pull off the base. You can trim some of it shorter if you want, and these can be glued right into that tree stand. So this is great for a centerpiece or a decor piece you're going to see. They are also scaled that even if you didn't want to do the big one, you could do that medium size, that next size down, and that fits as well. Obviously it's more stand than tree, but hey, if you really wanted to show this off, this would still work. So we wanted something that would be proportionate for both of those, and you could just glue that in with either hot glue or collage medium, And again, I love just the detail of how we just added those little screw handles. Even though they don't work, they're perfect. Now these could be colored with paint, crayons, embossing glaze, alcohol ink, you name it. But I love that. So thank you, Tracy. Thanks for doing that. It was a lot of patience of like, you want what? You want something like this? Like, no way. Yes way. Don't we? We do. It's all about the details. All about that. And we've had trees for years, but we always think like, great, what else can we do? What can we do to make them unique? Now, at Halloween, we launched this guy, the lantern. I'm happy to say that he's back for Christmas as well. The cool thing about this lantern, it is made of metal. It has a resin inside that's got a hollow core halfway through. The bottom is completely open. It has a notch out of the back because these are designed for the idea-ology tiny lights. Now on the tiny lights come with, well, a lot of lights on the strand. If you're going to use them in a lantern, well, you're going to see the makers. There are ways that you can, if you're doing a make, you can still use the entire strand, but just kind of weave some of them in the lantern and carry on about your make. If you just want to do the lantern, well, you're going to need to cut off the majority of the lights because it fits about 3 lights. I just kind of, you can see, just wind them, kind of wrap that wire. And this is designed where it can go up inside that hole. It stops halfway. You can see where it stops right in the lantern. This is designed where the wire can come out of the back and you can still set it flat. And of course, with the tiny lights, you can just light up your lantern. So it's beautiful. So you're going to see in these makes red lanterns, black lanterns, because yes, you can color these and make them distressed. Do you have to light these up? No. But the fact that you can, I mean, come on, right? If you don't want it this bright, then don't wrap 3 lights. Pretty much cut it down to 1. You just cut the end opposite the battery pack with your scissor and off you go. And the thing about tiny lights, especially if you're going to wrap or wire, it's a thin wire. So if you get too weird of like back and forth, or doing tight twists or pull them apart, this wire is not going to hold up forever. So you just want to be really careful. I've snapped several strands, right? Because I've tried to put them in and then change it and move it, and then the wire breaks, and that's okay until you get down here, and then, well, then then you're out of lights. But just keep that in mind, especially when you're doing this, right? Because sometimes you're like, oh, I really want to wrap it. I'm going to take pliers and kind of squeeze that. You don't want to do that. Just try to do your best with your fingers because we don't want the wire to snap. But I've done it, and it could happen, so it's okay if it does. Then we've got our holiday lights. These guys are back. This will, of course, indicate, especially if it's Christmas, the Christmas lights are, of course, a multi-strand. There you go. It's got blue, red, green, and kind of, I'm going to say yellow, but it's really more of a clear light. These are perfect. You're going to see them on the makes. I love that these come out at Christmas, that we have multicolor. If you don't have Christmas lights and maybe you have regular tiny lights, can you color these? Yes, you can drip alcohol ink on there, but it needs to be something translucent. But the color often kind of almost burns through the ink, so you have to ink them up really, really well. But yes, you can go in and colorize your regular tiny lights with that as well. All right, so let's set this aside. Perfect. Let's set these aside. And we're going to get ready to get into the makes. I have a couple other things and just kind of remind you of shipping before we get in, but I'm going to show you. I think I went through everything, tree stand. Last thing, this. It's just an idea that Paul and I were throwing around that I really wanted to do. And again, I'll say it, shout out to Chris and Tracy, because the seasonal collection was long designed, long in the works, long done, sent out. But we really wanted to create kind of a new structure, if you will, a foundation. So we already had the panel, but we're like, we really want something that if you want to create a collage with the trees and the lights and the lanterns and all those things, we really want to give something unique that's different than, say, a vignette box. These were so like new last minute that the makers that were making for the collection, only 2 makers got this because I only had 2 samples. But of course, you know, I'll make good with the rest of the makers. They'll get one. But because some of them are probably like, what is that? We didn't see that during the meeting. It was even after that. You know, that's the whole thing about ideas, that they continue to let me to run with it. So this is a little festive tin. It's just a small tin. It's got that same wonderful plaid printed around it that came from Paula's old tin that we also used on the paper. It is just a removable lid. The great thing about this, of course, for the holidays is that you can put things in there. If you do candies or cookies, you can do in a cello bag. If you want to fill that with like a gift card, if you want to do a mini accordion book, you can do so many things with this tin. However, the cool thing about this is that you could, of course, use it as a foundation. And you're going to see that for the makes, that when it comes to using the tin itself creates some absolutely charming makes with it. Now, one thing to know from a shipping, and then we're going to get into the makes. As I mentioned, the Christmas release is going to start shipping mid-October, so in the next couple of weeks. These Woodland Trees, these will not be shipping with Christmas initially. These aren't coming in until the end of October. As I mentioned, it is what it is, right? You get what you get and you don't throw a fit, but at least you know. So trees won't be coming in until the end of October. So if you're ordering Christmas stuff, you'll get the rest of the Christmas stuff, but these guys will be coming in the end of the month. This tin is not coming out until November. And some of you might be like, oh, that's too late for Christmas. Well, not really, because you're not doing much to the tin other than maybe building on it or building in it. But again, if it's too late for you, I totally get it, but it wasn't too late for me. So having this come out in November, just know that this will not be shipping with the other stuff. So essentially Christmas is 3 phases. It's the pretty much 99% of the Christmas release. Trees will be in a couple of weeks. Trees will be the end of October. This will be in November. But to me, good things are worth waiting for. And I would rather wait until the middle of November than wait until 2022. That's just how I roll. So, all right. I'm gonna hand this off to you, Mari, if you don't mind. Thanks. And yeah, if you want to take that, you can. And let's get into inspiration, shall we? Hopefully. All right. Cool. It is. It's like an old time. That's what it was. It was inspired by a little lunch tin because we wanted the little handle. And you know, a lot of the times they were hinged, but you know, I wanted the ability that if you wanted to take that, maybe you're going to do an accordion book and you attach it to the lid, that you can actually take that off, right? Or you can use that as a backdrop. So, and I'll show you exactly what I mean by the tins, because Paula and Stacy, they got the tins, the only two, and they were close, and they said yes, I don't mind doing a make at the very last minute. So a shout out to them, a shout out to all the makers, but really they're like down to the wire. So the cool thing, they both made completely different looking tins from a style aesthetic. So Stacy's tin, you can see she went in and grunged it up, right? Added some grit paste, sanded. There's a little bit of ephemera. There's a Salvaged Snowman, a little bit of batting over the top. And you can see how the lid she just used and just kind of glued it on to kind of give it the illusion that it is a hinged lid. Put ephemera in the back, take your Woodland Trees. There's the deer, a little bit of ribbon. And I love all the distressed detail of sanding and gritting and grunging. Tiny lights for the win. So there's some tiny lights and how she wrapped it around the tree and kind of created a garland. So that was really the inspiration for working with these, is that yes, you can put it, I mean, it's just a cute gift tin really for all those. But as a maker, it's going to give you something that you don't have to go absolutely extreme for doing assemblage work. So Paula's tin, she kept it clean, right? Just did it exactly as it comes because it already has that kind of vintage vibe. Here's using those label stickers just around the handle. Very clever idea. She also used a little batting just going around the side, kind of a wonderful little scalloped edge. You can see some ribbon. She also used the lid going up the back. You don't have to, right? You can use the lid for something else entirely if you want. So her tiny lights, well, look at that. She lit up the little paper village, right? Because those little mini paper village houses you can create and build. There are the baubles in the tree. And look at how she used the confections. See what I was talking about, where you can cut those? So if you wanted to do a little post for the side of the house, make a little candy cottage, just using the confections and adding a little sparkle. And of course, there's mica flakes on the top. So that little house from the Sizzix die, absolutely charming, because scale to us, super important. And that's, again, I'll say it to Tracy. We were so particular in what we wanted, but we really knew we were kind of up against the clock, that we didn't have time to actually have too many sourcing options, and she was able to like take the task and make it happen. But I love seeing both of these makes, totally different styles, by either adding kind of a grunged vintage layer, or you're just kind of creating the effect that you wanted to create on the tin. The other thing I want to point out, and you can kind of see it here, is that the art extends up. So when you take that off, you're still going to get that art if you're using it as a base, right? Instead of it just being silver on that lip, you're going to get that art all the way up to the top. So it makes for a great foundation. Absolutely adorable, right? Worth the wait, I think. I'm going to have it. I'm going to wait for it. So beautiful. I know the candies are so, so good. What ribbon are they using? I'm not sure what they're using. They probably could be using seam binding ribbon, but my guess is they probably have a stash of idea-ology crinkle ribbon. We used to have this absolutely freaking amazing ribbon that you can ink and you can crinkle that had more weight than seam binding. But hey, it might be that. I'll let them say what they use because, yeah, they're here. Okay, are we ready? I think. Mario, are we ready? We're ready to get into the makes?
Ready.
Okay, so when it comes to making, I'll bring that in. When it comes, I've got so many things kind of collected over here. I've got to be careful pulling this out. So when it comes to making, I always want to say a shout out to the makers. There is a wonderful group that just takes the products and just does magic. And different makers make for different releases, right? So there's not one specific type of maker. They're just depending on what they do and obviously what we have product for. So I want to say a shout out to the makers for the idea-ology Christmas release. Again, all of the makers are on timholtz.com. There is a maker page, so you can go and follow them and you can check them out on social media and their blog. Also, every single time we do a live release, if you go to timholtz.com, there will be a blog post specific to this live where the video is, as well as photos of all the makes, as well as links to the makers, right? So you can see where the makers are. And also as the makers make, the images, the thumbnails of their products are linked. So again, a shout out to Zoe Hillman for maintaining those links all the time for the makers. And this way you can actually be inspired and tutorial because many makers will be doing and sharing tutorials throughout the season. This was about getting their makes for live. So I'm gonna start with this one. This, of course, is our new display panel, right? Paula created this one. It does have some tiny lights in, so let me just turn this on. If it's there we go. So the great thing about this panel, as I mentioned, is it has a very thin profile, but enough that if you were going to stand it up, right, or hang it on a wall or put it on an easel, it has a foundation different than just doing a flat canvas board. The great thing, of course, if you look at the background, we'll kind of deconstruct this. Here you can see those collage tiles in action, because if you look at this, you would be convinced that this is layers of ephemera. It is not. It is one flat piece of paper. But instead of doing an all-over collage, right, like I did, where I took all collage tiles, here Paula went in and took the backdrops paper, some of those wonderful, just kind of solid patterns, and cut those squares to kind of break that up. So that's the other thing to know when it comes to working with collage tiles, is that you don't have to just use all of them. You can, I did that on the panel, but you can take your favorite papers, anything, and break that up. You also don't have to stick to just a square. If you want to break this down into a patchwork, if you're a quilter, if you can do some type of paper engineering, you can do a couple of squares and do one big panel of a print, right, from a backdrop, and a couple more squares. But I will tell you that this panel was sized that you could do the same size square as a repeat, and it fits 36 squares on here. But then you can see how everything is really brought to life. This is kind of the true thing of all of the difference between baseboards and using ephemera and using papers and using collage tiles. So here you can see that baseboard frame becomes the foundation, but instead of it being a frame, Paula just glued in some paper. There's that, isn't she just charming? She's just so full of joyful merriment. So that wonderful, beautiful photo is put inside the frame. Then we've got, so take a look at just the details of adding the tiny clips, right? For the edge of the quote, there's that little slide frame and the clipping stickers just to add a little sentiment. Here you're gonna see a lot of makers using the new distress, whether it's icicle or whether it's the grit paste, or a lot of times they'll just use rock candy and mica. So all the little snowy effects are all from distress products. I love seeing the new tiny stars as embellishments. Do you see that? Just such charming detail. A little bit of string wrapped around. Here you can see the snowballs. Now these, I want to call that out. I didn't even notice that until the live, so thanks, Paula. So these are actually done from Baubles, which we did for Halloween. And if you watch the Halloween live, you were warned, right? There's bubbles and baubles. Baubles are what I showed you, which are pearl. Bubbles that only come out at Halloween are the same sizes, but they are translucent. Look at how beautiful they are for snowballs, because they make the icy snowballs. Look at how beautiful they are for ornaments as well, because you can see through them. That's freaking amazing. And that just looks like a little metallic alloy, maybe some gold alcohol ink in there, but I love that I can see through that and how they cast the light totally different. So yeah, I just noticed that when I picked it up. I love the vintage ruler that Paula used as that foundation, so always look for vintage inspired elements. And of course there is our lantern that she painted red and grunged it up. So that's the beauty of that lantern as well. It could be red, green, blue. You can use it all year long for a great illuminated accent. And just put your tiny lights in through the back, bend it up, and then you've got that little switch. And here you can see where she used the tiny lights, not only through the lantern, but also in the tree. So same strand. So that's what I was saying. You can go in, you can start up here, twist a few together, come back, hide your lights behind something, wire them up to the tree. So you don't always have to have one sacrificial set of tiny lights for your lantern. You just have to kind of plan it out and figure it. And then you can see that the glitter. I love that. Looks like the new seasonal distress glitter in the back with the baseboards. What a great make. I just need
love
to.
the picture. It's mint. I mean, it's such a fun picture for that.
Yeah, I mean, when we saw that photo, like it's just pure joyful merriment. And that's why I was like, we are doing this. And honestly, if you think about it, for paper dolls, they're usually always just dolls. And it was that photo that was like, okay, well, we need this. So we're going to put this in the collection. And then we even ended up adding other photos and snapshots to the Halloween ones as well. So great make, Paula. Great. I can just gush over that. That's why I love. And the thing to remember about the makes, and I say this every single time, and I'm going to always say this is not here to intimidate. This is here to inspire. So the thing about the makers and why I love that is that the makers understand that when they're creating, some projects can be way over the top and extreme, and some projects need to be on a simpler, doable level, but they're all detail oriented. So remember that. Creativity is not a competition. And those that think that, shame on you, really, because, and I'm not saying, well, I am saying it. I am going to say it. It's a competition that people have with each other, but more importantly, it's a competition you have with yourself where you think like that make is not this or it's not that. You really need to get over yourself with that. You have to celebrate the joyfulness of making, and everything that you make is perfection because you made it and you like it, and that's all that matters. Let whoever think whatever. So instead of being so judgmental and critique on your own work as well as others, just celebrate the creative experience of it and go, you know what, I love that. And you can see something and go, oh my gosh, I'm going to do that next time, right? I say that all the time. You have to give props to where you find inspiration. You're like, you know what, that's a great idea. Next time I am going to add some candy onto that house. I didn't think of that. That's great. Or next time I am going to use a frame on the box. That's what these makers are here to inspire. And that's what I think everyone needs to do in the industry, is just to inspire, right? So this one, beautiful little vignette that Stacy created. I love the fact that it starts out with a vignette box and then using that baseboard frame just as a front to the shadow box, right? So same frame that Paula used, but now you can see there's a little vignette going on inside, right? There's a little tree in there that she lit up. Beautiful little paper doll where she's got sitting on the edge. I love seeing that stocking for the ephemera, but look what she did. She actually shaped the stocking. Hello, put in Confections. Took a flat paper element, curved it, and filled it with dimensional objects. Come on, right? And then of course, if you take your favorite die cuts to add some greenery, add a little mica, and look at that little tree stand. See how it just makes that tree an anchor point. Sure, you can still just glue them flat or use the wood base, but isn't that stand just stinking cute? Absolutely love it. Love the details of the make. And you'll see a lot of these. There's just little touches of mica and glitter. The distress, both the mica flakes and glitter, these are your friends, especially around the holidays, because you can just go in, touch a little glue, push some down. It doesn't have to be full-on coverage. That little sparkle is going to catch the eye. I love the stitch detail also around that. Just charming. That's what it's all about. It's about just making what inspires you from the product. It's not saying, oh my gosh, if I'm going to use that frame has to go in the panel like Paula did. No, it could go on a vignette box, or it could go on the cover of a mini book. You're going to see stuff used many different ways, but it's these little nuggets of inspiration that should be that little spark of like, oh, I got to do that. Because I love details. I love seeing all the different details that are created. So Zoe created this. I love seeing a display dome. A display dome is designed to display, right? that's obvious, but the whole thing is like you create an element that becomes a focal point, and display domes could just be what's underneath. Put the glass over the top because it is glass, right, on a cork base. Or you can go in and maneuver this, right? You've seen this before where, you know, you have to go in and carve this and drill this. This takes some time to do it. So you can create something that is simple, where you can say, okay, I'm just going to take a tree. I'm just going to take one of these glitter trees. I'm going to hot glue that in, and I'm going to put some baubles on it, put a little tinsel and call it done. Absolutely, you can do that. Or you can say, all right, that was fun, but let me just take a little time to add that little stand, antique it. I love the sheet music on the base. And then I'm going to go in and carve out a little notch for the cord. And I'm going to add some tiny lights to the tree and light up that tree. And you can see here that she used the bells, the tiny bells for ornaments. That's a great idea to paint the tiny bells and glue those in and just light that up, especially with the mica flakes. Here you can take any of the clipping stickers. You can take any of your favorite stamped sentiments, anything to create that. And that's the important thing to remember about holiday makes, especially if you want to make for neighbors or friends and you're like, gosh, what can I do? Absolutely charming just to see that. And what I love about the simplicity of this is that it's a display dome. So you could hide that battery pack on a table. Let's say you're doing for a holiday centerpiece, light it up, put flowers or other things or other greens around it, some pine branches, and there you go. And now you can appreciate that in the round. See, that's what it is. Inspiration is everywhere, guys. That's the whole point of that. I love that dome. Next up, we've got some cards, and a shout out to Sharon for taking on this challenge. We've talked about it for years, how we absolutely love the paper side of ideology, but from the maker side, most of our makers really like to kind of get their vignette game going, right? Do something dimensional in 3D. And that's it. That's why we have those ideology makers, because they excel at that. And one thing Sharon excels at are cards. She can make cards like nobody's business in a day, just so many different ones. And so we put out the challenge. We're like, would you be open to just really taking this collection and seeing ideas you can do that are paper related? They could be gift bags, tags, cards. And so you're going to see several different ideas throughout the live from Sharon. So thanks for taking that on, because you really did the line proud with this, because you can see how if you're going to create cards, you can go in with your backdrops. Those are all those papers. And then you can go in with your layers. That's these guys. And you can even go in and add ephemera and stickers. So ephemera is going to be this. So remember when we talked about ephemera being more of the same paper like backdrops, layers being a little thicker, and then we have the label stickers. So some other tips that you can do to layers or ephemera is use the Distress Frosted Crystal Embossing Powder. And that's what's on here. Can you see how Santa has got like that wonderful kind of almost pixelated texture? Just using clear embossing ink and the Distress Frosted Crystal Embossing Powder, when you emboss it, it just gives it, well, a frosted crystal, and it actually gives that paper a whole different texture, right? So it does, so when the recipient gets it, it's not, they're like, what is this? Like, I feel it. It's got a wonderful little, well, frosted crystal look to it, but that's the joy of using those different mediums on there. And you can see just the little stars, the little accent. But what a great way to sit down with your stack of backdrops, your bags of ephemera, and make cards, right? And it's just, we've talked about it for years. Every single time after a live, Paul and I are like, oh, we wish we had more cards, because they're just, everything is perfect and scaled for that. That's what it's all about. Then you can go in if you have die cuts. Maybe you've got gift bags, gift boxes, rosettes. You know, a lot of these dies are retired, so you might have them in your stash, or you can use new ones, right? Like a Matchbox die or anything. But what a great idea to take papers. Now these are done with the worn wallpaper, right? So now that bag has more of a linen texture. So mixing it up, taking that, and then just adding your little elements. So here's a rosette. The back of this is that snowflake impresslet. So even if you're going to cover that, it still adds that great metallic sparkle. And then you can go in with the little elements like your stars or your ephemera pieces. But what a great way. I don't know what list I'm on though. Could be on the nice or naughty list. It could go either way. So the great thing about this idea is, again, it's a way to use up stuff. And even if you're doing a little bit of both, maybe you're doing collage. We all know as makers that we're left over with remnants of a package that it's like, great way to use up what you have to create cards and gift bags for the season. So wonderful, Really, really cool. I know, aren't these beautiful? To me, it's that frosted crystal is everything. If you haven't used it, I mean, I know when we demoed it, we talked about it going with the chalk effect, but just putting it on your layers. If you try to put it on ephemera, you can, but remember, ephemera is pretty thin. So you can do that, but you're much better off on something like layers or baseboard, something a little thicker, so you don't get that little, you know, chip kind of aspect from the embossing. But you can still do it on ephemera. Nothing wrong with that. All right. This next tray, this is from Emma. So here Emma used that new display panel. I said it's a tray because you look at the inside and it's like a tray. But my point is you can take the new panel. Paula used the back side of this. I love how she colored this in red, so festive, adding some idea-ology hardware like the little label pull. I even love the detail of the hinges, right? Hinges aren't functional, they're decorative, but beautiful, right? And now use the inside of the tray as the display space. Totally perfect. So some things you can see in the background, just stitching paper together. I know there's just this wonderful industry fascination with sewing, and I love that. I love how people just add that detail. And this is sewn, and you can see like it's ripped out, and then the threads are there. So cool. But taking backdrops, taking wallpaper, any of those elements. Here are the wallpaper clippings for that. I love seeing all those little cutout pieces. There again, see, frosted crystal as well that Emma did. I love seeing the layers of this on the baseboard frames. Little mica, little glitter, paper doll. Look how she has that little tree. See, that's the joy of these trees. Now the tree, even if a tree is too big, you can still go in with wire cutters, right? I wouldn't recommend doing scissors, but you can take any of your trees, even the mini ones, and snip that with wire trimmers, and you can cut that off. But I love how she's holding a tree with the dog. Love the metal gates. It's part of idea-ology. I love the little addition of the bells, and of course the baubles. Emma loves baubles. Pine cones, these are some favorite adornments from years past. Look at that new, oh my gosh, I love that plaque. Mini hardware heads, right? So these guys, these are flat, so you can glue it right over the hole to make it look like you screwed that in, but these are just gluers. These are called hardware heads from idea-ology. And then of course the etc. trims, right? These are from Stampers Anonymous. Those trim pieces, I love seeing that crackle on there, but they provide a very stunning magical ledge. And you can see the little sparkle. Why did you do mirrored stars? Well, because you've seen them on the make so far, and they just add that touch of nostalgia. And if you want them vintage, a little mushroom alcohol ink, well, that is the magical color for vintage. Beautiful, beautiful tray. And there's so many things. There's so many crazy ideas for the trays. I can't even believe it. So Marlise created this. And this was a challenge to Marlise because Marlise did a mini book for Halloween, and she has another beautiful book for this. But I'm like, I want to see that concept of a junk journaler or mini book maker, because that's what she is. Can that idea be applied to a bigger foundation? And that was a challenge. So thanks, Marlise, for taking that on. It was like, if you love to do junk journals and you make books, this is a great concept to kind of meld both worlds together. So here's just a large tag. I'm going to untie this, right? This is a little idea-ology velvet trims. We have this in our everyday line, but the colors of the velvet trims are beautiful. I probably should have undone this first because, see, look, my pork chop fingers can't even grab ribbon. That's just me. That's all right. I'll take this out, but I'll show you what this is. So it starts out with the panel, right? And you can see all that wonderful distressed crackle paste along the edge. The papers, we've got this beautiful foundation. Love the paper dolls. Beautiful family taking the paper, cutting out the little windows, adding some of the wallpaper, adding the stars. But this piece becomes kind of this interactive flap that then comes down. Oh my gosh. Did you hear that? I had no idea. I got to do that again. Did you hear that?
I did.
That was epic. You did?
No, I didn't hear it before.
Merry Christmas, Mr. Holtz.
That's fantastic. Oh my gosh. I didn't know you could do personalized. See, that's going to be my next thing. I'm all into that. So, see, now I'm like totally off because I want to be like, I want to know what that is. How did you get it? Where did you get it? So here's the thing about detail. If you look at the construction of this, how brilliant of that to open that tag onto this panel, and now you have kind of that interactive junk journal, if you will, but now you're taking it onto a much larger scale. You're using this as a platform. And so all of the things from cards and things that can come out of pockets, again, the stuff that you would normally do in a journal that you would just bind together, now you've just made this interactive. You can have little pockets that you can undo and kind of expose little hidden flaps that you can put gift cards or notes in or photos. If you look here, all of these pieces are designed to be interactive. At least I hope they are. Well, this is the first time opening, obviously. That Santa, I'm like, did I hear something? I thought it was Mario at first. So this, of course, will open, and then you can see this entire card. That becomes another interactive piece. So this is something, let's say you were going to do this as a gift and you wanted to create kind of a photo collage that someone could put up or display. They could still utilize this and hang, or they can still keep this with it. But I love all those little pockets. You can see the little glassine bag with little tags, the collage tags with the paper dolls, and all of the details matter. This is where you get to use your backdrops, your paper dolls, your ephemera, your wallpaper, your snippet labels, your label stickers, your washi tape, all of those things. That is what makes the interactive kind of paper side of things so amazing, right? Because anything can be a foundation for that. You can go in, little decal trimmer for the win, right? Take out a little deckled edge and add things to it, do your sewing. So I just think it's just a great idea. So Marlise, you absolutely rocked this because
So
yes.
everyone thought that was me on the sound, and
So
I
did
know
I.
It wasn't me, but where is it? Or where did it come?
It came from the make.
I know, but how or where?
I don't know. That's what I just said. I was kind of off my game because I thought you said it.
No, it wasn't me.
I have no idea.
Were you touching something?
No,
or-
I opened this up.
Oh, must be something in here.
Mr. Holtz.
I see something there, but it must live. It must live under here. I'm not going to take her make apart.
No,
it
no.
must live in
That is
this
very cool, and it wasn't me.
this pocket. But I have my name.
I know, I heard it.
Totally personalized. Yeah, I have. But I mean, every little detail, like even taking just a strip of card, right? So take a backdrop, make pockets, add your little snippets and ephemera. I just think that the inspiration for this is what it's all about. It's saying, okay, and again, as a maker, yeah, you make this look, right? You make this thing from, okay, I'm taking this element because I love to do journals. All right, so take that concept and just challenge yourself to apply it to something else, because how great is this if this was going to be for your family? It's like an interactive scrapbook, and if you love the idea of junk journaling and collage, right, this gives you the ability to then tie this together, which holds this in place, and this is still visible. If this was hanging up on a wall, you could still hang it that way. Or you can have everything closed up by closing that, and she just added just that tag top to the back, right? And that's just cut from the file folder, so you have that nice thick substrate. So even though the file folder, you need that substrate, there you go. And then tie that together. But yeah, all the details. Great make. Absolutely great make. It's cool.
It is very cool.
Yeah, really fun. And that's the thing. I mean, every maker just did like so many just amazing things with their imagination. So Vicky created this on an etc. tag. You can first just appreciate that beautiful sheen over the wood grain of the Distress Icicle crackle. This is what we did for Christmas. Don't you just see how it cracks like ice, real thin ice over it? And I love how it's just kind of skippity doodah over there where you've got some paper, some of that crack. But then here is a great idea for all those wood slices, right? Take those wood slices and create a tree, right? Take that, add rubs, add your charms, the little Vignette hardware nails, because you can hammer into those. There's a little charm there, the little tiny bells, the mirrored stars. I love these nails. One of my favorites. This is from the Vignette hardware pack, because these nails, you guys, these are well, I don't want to say hand forged. They're a molded nail to look like hand forged metal. So the post of it isn't round, it's actually square. They're just the coolest little nails, and they are sharp as can be, so you could just tap them in. But look at the little jingle bells. And then these guys back here, these are called, these are machine heads. So they're bigger than hardware heads, bigger scale, but I love how she used those as an ornament. I love seeing those little stars, how she colorized those. That's what I was talking about, kind of grunging up. So even if you wanted something a little bit more vintage, and everything is done with those nails. I love those nails. And then here, these are the number blocks from Idea-ology, part of the everyday line. So take that 25 if you're saving the 25 for Christmas, maybe the 31 for Halloween. Take that, and that is the foundation. So what a cool etc. tag, especially if you love that whole woodland vibe. And several things I kind of set aside because of that, like the woodland aesthetic, because there's different sides to the holiday season, right? It can be Christmas ho ho ho, or it can just be celebrating the beauty of the winter season as the most wonderful time of year. So a great way to incorporate a rub quote on those wood slices. Great make, Vicky. Love it. Love it, love it. This make from Tammy B. This is a vignette divided drawer. If you've watched many lives, you know that Tammy B and I share our love of Disney, and this was inspired by Frontierland. So Frontierland at Disneyland around the holiday season definitely has all of the rustic bells, the little red bows and string on there. But I love how she incorporated this. So this is just a covered vignette divided drawer. So this drawer actually has two dividers that you can remove, and so that's what's cool about this particular vignette, is that you can leave it divided or you can remove elements that allow you to create different size compartments. She added some of the idea-ology, just a little mini hardware, just that drawer pull with a little grit paste. See, grit paste makes all the difference, taking something new and making it look super old. And then using a swivel clasp, adding a little grit and grunge, giving it that full Frontierland vibe. If you look in the back, there we go. I was trying to get the light to hit it. I love how she used, I love that plaque in there with Peace on Earth. You can see how kind of gritty and grimy it is in there. Wallpaper in the background, taking that deer from the ephemera, even some toadstools to give it, so those toadstools, those are part of the everyday line, just to give it a great outdoor vibe. There's a little wood slice in the background, adding a little stick there, and there's our lantern, right? Look at the lantern, it's got just that grit, grunge, a little bit of mica on there for sparkle, and see in the back, those tin tops, really important to remember, even though they're shiny and printy, you can still go in and grunge them up. Use your grit, use your crayons, use your paint, right? Distress ink won't stick to the metal, but certainly crayons, distress crayons, and distress paint will. And then I just love the little montage of just the wood slices and the bell, and that just casts a little warm glow. So remember with the tiny lights, yes, it's a tree, but not everything has to light up from top to bottom. I love the accent of that. So it's just a beautiful make to stand up. So love the Frontierland. Well, you know that, right? And that's another great use for those trims that come in the worn wallpaper pack, right? If you do any kind of collage or boxes, it's a great trimming for that. Just beautiful. So again, outdoor vibe. That's kind of all three of these makes, because each one, as I was sorting them out last night, I'm like, these kind of all have the same kind of, I don't know, feel to me, but certainly just, I don't know, just different. Same but different. So this is a vignette box. I'm just going to show you. So Jan created this, but I just want to kind of show you the mechanics. Sorry, Jan. Sometimes the makers are like, why are you showing how we did it? Because the mechanics, when you see it, you totally get inspired by the idea, right? Meaning, take a vignette box, turn it over, but if you needed to extend the platform, you can take those etc. pieces from Stampers Anonymous, because they're thick. It is a paperboard material, but they're thick and durable. Now we have dies to match, right? That's going to be the trim die that we did for Sizzix. So now you have an easy way to cover those with decorative paper. And by gluing it onto the vignette and using the wallpaper to cover the seam, look, now you made a bigger foundation for your showcase, for your piece, whatever it is you're creating. But take a look at the details again on the plaque. I love how the makers just did different things, right? Some used it plain, some painted it solid like Emma did, grunged like Tammy. This one has like a little glitter in there. Can you see a little sparkle embedded in there? I'm not sure how that's done, but I love it. See that? Like a little rock candy in there. That's beautiful. There's the tree. There's our little lantern. This one just done, just painted over black. Tiny lights, of course, you see that under there, right? That's going to turn them on and off. You can see the tree stand in there and how that just glows. I love having a little bit of tiny light under there to really draw your eye into that tree stand. There's a decorative deer. If you cover them with glitter, you can just go with glossy accents or collage medium and glitter the deer. There you can see a little quote flare. It's all about the little details, right? Just as you kind of spin around. And you'll see that plaid paper from the backdrop. So the backdrops are the backdrops because they're the backdrops. They are designed to be the background. Now, you can go in with your tree, right? Add your lights. You can add, this one has the tiny stars that have been alcohol inked, a little bit of mica on there. Yeah, really cool. And that new distress glitter that we did for Christmas just creates that perfect palette for wintertime vibe. Beautiful, right? Great make, Jan. Yep. Love the woodland vibe. Great woodland feel. All right. Moving right along. We're going to keep going. Thanks for all the kind comments to the makers, guys. I'm not even going to clean this glitter because we are going into the glitter vortex. That's what it is, because it just is. So here is a vignette tray that Paula created. The thing about the vignette series in Idea-ology, these are all the wood panels, right? So you can see on the trays, obviously they're long. There's a large and a small tray. They come in a set. A little bit deeper, right? The big one is deeper than the small one, but look at the background. So let's just talk about this beautiful background. Do you guys recognize it? So can you see how you can really appreciate that wood texture through this? That's because this background is done with collage paper, right? So the collage paper still has that pop of color, but because it is translucent, when you apply the collage paper with Distress Collage Medium, right? You put a layer of collage medium down on your substrate, make sure it's wet, place your collage paper down, push it into the wet collage medium, and then put another layer over the top. So wet, when it's sandwiched with wet and wet, it actually permeates through the surface of that paper and it turns the paper from white, as you see it, into translucent. And that's where you get that beautiful pop of color. You can see that wonderful wood grain. If you want to add different effects to it, you can either put some paint under there, so often you can dry brush, or even if you want that to really kind of have a worn look, right? See how it's like worn right there? If you don't put a lot of collage medium, you'll get some of that white to reveal when it dries, right? And you can just do it in certain spots because it just adds a great little worn nostalgia to it when you're adding it. You can also peel and tear and add layers, which is what's done here. So when you layer collage medium or collage paper, you'll see that you're also going to get a little bit more of that opacity when you're layering leaves and text, because you can use it in its entirety, but you can also piece and collage on your own. Just a beautiful way to show off that collage paper, especially on wood, because you totally see and feel the texture of the wood because that paper is so thin and sheer. And it's different than regular tissue paper because tissue paper is going to dissolve when you add so much collage medium. So here you could see that wonderful frame covered in some glitter, little rock candy. I love the layers of baseboards where we got the frame covering up that little layer there. And then you add that December calendar from the Ephemera pack. Love the little, I love the attention to detail. I sometimes get captivated when I look at that because I'm like, okay, that's cool. There's a little quote flare, there's baseboard, there's tiny clip, there's this. It is all about taking those little elements, and every little detail matters. From a little snowflake, I mean, look at that, right? Because really, I'm seeing the makes for the first time, guys. I sort them quickly, but it's the details. So using that little snippet from Ephemera to go around that tree, come on. And here you can see Paula's tinting, just artistry in action on the paper dolls, using distressed crayons to tint the paper dolls and add a pop of color. But a beautiful make for that. It's all about the details. Always, always. I agree. She always brings it. This next make, you just, hold on. I have to carefully take things out because I don't want to destroy any of the makes. And some of them, of course, they're just different. They kind of go many different ways. So this is a vignette. I'm going to just start here just to show you the top view, and then I have to lay it sideways because it's really meant to just sit this way, but I always want to show you. So Emma created this. This is a vignette. It does have tiny lights underneath, so I'm going to light it up. There we go. So this is done using vignette boxes. I love the juxtaposition of those boxes, just kind of offsetting that. Taking another vignette box. These are those baseboard frames that we did for Halloween. So if you have those wonderful window frames, great for your vignettes. There are the icicles. See how the icicles are just scaled perfectly, adding some mica, adding some of the grit. So the snowflakes, that's why you can't really see. The snowflakes would hang down in the window, but I can't show them that way. But look at the back. Can you see I'll turn that off just for a second, right? Adding lights under something, whether you do a dome or the snow globe or anything, it's just very charming. But this has been crackled. So see how it's got that icy crackle look to it? Beautiful. I love seeing the Salvaged Santa and Snowman. Of course, these can be painted, just taking a detail brush, taking your favorite paints, painting to add the little detail. You can antique it, you can glitter it. They just make for such a charming little character. There you can see the baubles colored and just stacked around. I love the texture all around. Oh, the trees, they're wired. So if you have a tree that kind of looks like it's from Whoville, you can just bend it back. But you could have a Whoville tree. You can just kind of bend it. But I love just seeing how they're positioned all the way around. I know just having that window, that little partially open, just a charming little winter scene. Is it not? I love that, Emma. And great way to use backdrops. That's what it's about. Backdrops, the whole weird size and the whole idea was so people weren't afraid to cut paper. I've read it for so many years being in this industry of having a 12 by 12 paper. And it's like, but it's too beautiful. I don't want to cut it apart. I don't want to use it. Well, backdrops, every single thing in backdrops is already cropped wrong. And I say wrong because it's right, meaning we don't really center the image. We've always just cut it off. So you have no problem cutting it apart and using all of the interesting elements, to a little bobble going, to the make. That's the beauty. So wonderful, wonderful use of that. And the whole thing about vignettes really is to create whatever you have in your imagination. The vignettes provide just a charming foundation for things. So Zoe created this. This is a vignette shrine, right? And so we have many different vignettes. We have vignette boxes, which are nested squares, vignette trays. We have the vignette panel. The vignette shrine is kind of this shrine or house-shaped vignette. It's a wonderful vignette because not only does it come with this structure, but it comes with these pieces that you can add as a base. So it sits up really well because it's got a wider base than the top. Zoe created just such a charming little wonderful sweet shop that lights up. Look at that. So here you can see that she took the shrine. I love the detail of using those little shingles on the top just to create that little roof, the little mica flakes. There you can see the theme to the story, Wonderful Life. And then in here, these are the etc. trims that she used to create these little shelves in the sweet shop. This could actually just be, well, I'd live here, right? But look at the attention to detail. Here you have the mini corked vials, and I love all the little details of the labels, right, from Snippets, the Remnant Rubs, the string. Look at these little candies. This is not Confections. These are even smaller. These are some fancy little candy beads. Those are adorable. I know they're adorable because she sent me a pack. I love them. Those are really, really cute. See that little snippet label? So using those little bottles to create the candies, then we have the tin top and that little mini flare added to that. So really layer metal on metal, grunge it, make it a little gritty. Here you can use, that's a little piece of ephemera that Zoe collaged on there. I love this stack of snowballs, just taking the baubles and then adding glitter and collage medium because it creates such a wonderful wintry candy finish. Look at the jar, right? Little snow in there. I love the mica flakes on the outside. Little details like words, things like that. That really matters on the make. Also, when it comes to a vignette, right? You can use the vignette itself and whitewash paint to give it an effect, but that's also why we include several different textures for the backdrops, right? So if you wanted that barnwood, you can. Oh, look at the icicle. I just noticed that. Cool. Those are the mini icicles. Very clever. See, I told you can cut them apart. Didn't realize someone actually did. I love that. So see the icicles? What a great detail just to add to the element. And then I love seeing the tiny lights kind of with this bottle because it just makes that whole like magic snowy jar of snow. But then you can see the confections, right? So here we go. And take a look at this. That is the snow globe with the wooden base out of here, tipped upside down to make a candy jar. What a great use for the snow globe. Here you can see that's got the icicle crackle, or you can even do rock candy. It sometimes helps if you do a layer of collage medium, but this is all the details, the remnant rubs, the little labels, the mirrored star. I love just seeing the confections put in there. And you see that little detail of the ephemera. It is all about details. It's a mindset. We talk about that even as makers, that as ideology is a mindset. And any of the ideology makers, and for you guys that love to make for ideology out there, you know what I mean already, right? You sit there with something just plain, blank canvas, and you just start letting your imagination run wild. You let that story become your make, right? And every little detail is what gets you kind of consumed, meaning you might just start with just collaging the outside or adding your crackle paste or doing the roof, and then that's it. And then you might sit there and just start making a bunch of little bottles where you're adding your rubs and your stickers, and that's it. And then you go in and do a bunch of snowballs, and that's it. It's all that compartmental making where you do all the details, and then you sit down and you take all of those beautiful details and they come together in your make, just like this one Zoe did, right? Because if you needed to sit down and like every little thing, you're like, okay, I need to start to make this bottle. Okay, done. Okay, I need to go down and make this one. Like, sometimes that really derails your imagination because you're so caught up in getting it done instead of enjoying the process and then having the ability to take all these little elements that you've made and pull them together. Great details. But you can see mica at Christmas, those mica flakes, so cool. And it's synthetic mica, so just remember when you're working with it, it's a synthetic mica, so it could get a little sharp when, not sharp in the jar, but when you glue it, I mean, it has a nice solid foundation to add that wonderful reflection. Just absolutely beautiful. Candy. I just want to like, my pork chop fingers won't fit in there, so that's probably good that she did that, but I'd scoop out a little candy. Love it.
I love when you find stuff that you don't know it's there, like the icicles on the side. Or
But I say that. I mean, I don't know if people believe me or not, and that doesn't matter. Let whoever think whatever. But what I will say is I like to be surprised with you guys. That's my excitement in a live is absolutely genuine because I'm seeing it when you're seeing it. I mean, I've seen it because I'm like, okay, here's some cards. I should put that there. Oh, here's a tray. Let me spread out the trays.
you don't look at it.
But I don't look at the
I
details.
can hear the difference in your voice. I mean, I totally can hear it.
It's just fun. It's fascinating to see it for the first time. So here's another series of cards that Sharon did. I love this idea of taking the papers. Now these, if you notice, these are the pocket cards, right? So the other thing that we talked about, those pocket cards that we did, right? If I told you, even if you're not into scrapbooking, these could be, you'll see a lot of makers even use these to cut up and use them as their background papers, right? So a great use for just taking pre-cut cardstock, already has all the little rounded detail, put it on a card base, whether it is a craft card base or whether you used any of the cardstock, right? So this is just probably just some Nina cardstock, any of the white, or it could be heavy stock. But it's nice to have those panels already cut for easy, quick card assembly, right? Where you can take those pocket cards, add your ephemera, add those smaller pieces, add a paper doll, add that little quote flare, little star, done. Next, right? And if you want to go in and add the details, you can just sew around those edges. So this is, again, all about compartmental making. I'm going to do card bases one night. I'm going to go in and just sew all of these different pocket panels that I might want to use as backgrounds off to the side. I'm going to maybe go in and tint the paper dolls just to add that little splash of color on there. Done. I'm going to choose some embellishments that I want to use. Great. And then you can just sit down and boom, build the cards. And there's all sorts of different details that you can do by adding foam tape, by positioning paper dolls, different, changing the orientation of a card, right? For the guys on the sleigh. I love these guys on the sleigh. Like they're just having just a time of their life. How she is just sitting on top of that circle, because people say, where do you put these? Well, you put them wherever, right? You just have to get that perspective to how they're sitting or standing on an ephemera piece. But what a great idea for the cards, right? That's what it's all about, is taking these elements and ideology that are there and showing you like, wow, you don't even have to worry about, cutting the paper or deciding what elements you want to use. You can just go in and make all sorts of different size cards, right? Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right. Next up, let me grab this one because this is another great book. Susie created this one. Susie goes on YouTube. Marlise does as well. Both of our bookmakers, you definitely want to find them on YouTube because they do walkthroughs of their book. I could never do their books justice during a live because every single turn of the page has a bazillion different details to it. But the thing to remember about these makers is that they share so much of it throughout the season. So Susie created this book. Take a look at this. It starts with an etc. tag, but then it's this really long, wonderful, I'm just going to take it, accordion book. Wow, look at that. So many cool elements, both sides, right? That's the whole thing of an accordion book. When you're committing to that, you can expect that somebody is going to want to, well, do what I did. Open it and then go, oh, can I open it this way? Yes. So you can open the book this way, or you can open the book this way. Just so cool. So using the etc. tags as covers is really nice because it gives it that nice weight. But then there's so many things that you can create together. So by putting your paper back to back, you can stitch those or score those. I love all the little interactive elements, right? Because, Susie used a lot of little details. So there again, there's some frosted crystal on that paper doll to give them a nice little wintry vibe. Using clippings, using the wallpaper scraps, stitch scraps. This is something in our everyday ideology line. These are pieces of fabric that have different stitching details already done. So you can go in and sew them like she did, or you can staple them and glue them. But the interactive ability of things are so cool. So here, just a little candy, and she sliced it, right? Because these are made out of a clay, you can go in and slice this with a craft knife and make that a flatter mint. It still has dimension. I love seeing the Flair. And just as we go through there, look at the wonderful slide with the little bit of grit. I love all the layers. That's what it's all about. And you can see, Susie, look at that with all that frosted crystal going on in there. Good detail. And sewing, sewing, sewing. But so many cool pockets just everywhere. It's so interactive. And I like that this particular book, it doesn't really have like structure to a page, meaning, right, it's not consistently rectangular. I like that, you know, everything is shooting out everywhere, and all of these torn edges where the whole entire book just looks torn, just so cool and tattered. I love how she used just part of that group shot of the paper dolls and just tore it off, and that becomes a pocket as well, right? There again, that's the label from those pocket cards. That becomes an insert. Just really charming, huh? So cool. And all the little accents. There's a little hinge clip with some jingle bells on there. I love the seal. I love the little deer. I like that the little deer has that loop pin on there. Really cute. And then we'll go this way, right? We'll take that, adding that quote. Look at that. Ah, there's that icicle. That's over a backdrop. That's that calendar paper. Look at that. That wintry scene. Remember, add a little color, go in with some crayon, add some color into that. Beautiful little pockets there. So much great detail. Adding the element over the fabric. But see, again, so many little pocket details that like all of these tags are removable. So you can go in and take that. You can journal on the back. I mean, there's details front and back. That's why seeing the walkthroughs that they do, they're going to showcase every little detail, probably more than half the ones I'm already missing. But it's very cool to see how many makers went in and used frosted crystal on their pieces, because it does. It makes a huge difference on your ephemera and layers. It just adds a great touch to it. I love seeing those little stars on that plaque. Beautiful, beautiful book, Susie. I got to open this because, yeah, accordion books just very cool. Fascinates me, the whole thing. Oh, there we go. I know where I can put that back in. Or not. Let's see, where'd that go? It's going there. I think it did go there. Very cool. Excellent, right? So much inspiration, guys. So much inspiration. All right, moving right along. Again, simplicity. I said it once and I'll say it again. There is beauty in simplicity. Everything has a great value of inspiration and idea. This little vignette that Vicky created is totally my jam, right? A great little vignette. I love how she used the tree stand as a base. So she just took some wood slices to give it a little height, painted that tree stand, and look at what a perfect base it makes for that vignette box to display it. She went in and took some backdrops just to add that paper, painted that lantern red. Look at that, lit it right up. There's a few little pine cones. She loves the pointy finger just like I do. But everything from the baseboards to the ephemera pieces to the backdrops, there's some little pine cones, and how it just hangs. And that, yeah, the little lantern just kind of hangs there. She's got it kind of tacked because you can see, there you go, there's little mechanics right there where the tiny lights come in from the back. But what just a beautiful little display piece, right? That's it. That's what you have to remember. It's like the judgment just has to stop with ourselves and each other about saying that is awesome. That is just as brilliant as something that has, 20 different layers to it, because we all have something to contribute from a creative inspiration, right? You have to just let your imagination do what it wants to do. And when it's done, right? You don't have to force that. You should never force creativity. Beautiful. I love that, Vicky. Like, I just want to show you real quick the detail of that. When it comes to painting the lanterns, right? And I'm sure many of the makers are going to give a lot of great tips. Remember, you can just go in and add paint. You can also go in with a little steel wool. Steel wool is a great way to wear off paint on metal embellishments over sandpaper. Sandpaper is almost very, very scratchy. You could use sandpaper, fine, but try steel wool as well. Go in with paints, go in with crayons, and just play around. You can even go in with your embossing glazes because, again, it's metal. It's going to be hot, but it will melt on there. Beautiful. I love it. All right. So next up, this panel that Stacy created, so beautiful, just absolute vintage. So this, of course, is the display panel. So remember, Emma worked on the inside, Paula's worked on the outside, Stacy's worked on the outside of that, but a lot of really beautiful details. I I'm not sure what this is. I think it's an embroidery hoop. I'm not sure. If Stacy's in, maybe she can tell us, because it's metal, right? If so, it's vintage and it's excellent. But look at that beautiful family just tinted. You can see the frosted crystal. See, you can, once you know to look for it, you can spot it, because it just adds such a wonderful detail to that. Not just at Christmas, just year round, because it gives it not only that wonderful finish, but it also provides great tooth for going in and tinting and coloring. It takes crayon beautifully with watercolor because it has a little bit of that texture. Here you can see the woodland trees, the baubles. I love the detail of these ornaments. I saw Paula do that last year as well, where they go into the baubles, paint and add some glitter. Really cool with the mica. What's up, Mario?
Yes, it is a vintage hoop.
Perfect, vintage hoop. I love the details again of die cuts. You can see here just all the different finishes of those plaques. But then let's look at the background, right? So there's a whole aesthetic. Stacy, I would say she's like shabby grunge vintage, but I love seeing like this batting layer and then all of these paper layers sewn as if like this, I don't know, it's almost like this quilt. It was a foundation. Even though it's done out of paper, it's just a wonderful quilt. One of my favorite backdrops in the pack, you'll have to see in its entirety, but it says Blessing and Company. It's just a beautiful back of a cabinet card that I love seeing it blown up as a backdrop. That's the other thing I love about having so many different paper components to ideology, right? Backdrops are supposed to be backdrops, right? Big scales of things blown up out of proportion. That's the beauty. Wallpaper is going to be a little bit more to scale, and then you have ephemera that is different. But it's just all these little details of like buttons and fabric stitched around. Oh, look at that. There's the wallpaper, right? Those are those trims, how she embedded that into that hoop, because that's from the wallpaper. I love the addition of little die cuts, right? Just to add some greenery. There's that wonderful crinkle bow, just a beautiful panel. So think about this idea, right? In whatever it is, there's many aspects to this. There could be the panel. Maybe you have a hoop. Maybe you have some other ornate frame or vintage frame that you want to put on top of the panel. This could be a paper doll, but it could also be a family photo, right? It could be a photo that even you don't have to silhouette cut that. You can still insert a family photo into the frame, put some trees around it, put a panel, and you're done. It could be for your house. You can do this for a friend, for a family. What a great way to display a family photo that's more than just a traditional frame, right? That's what it's about. It's about taking what you see and be inspired by what you like. I'll say it again. This is not to judge and go, well, I don't like this or I like that. It's not about what you don't like. It's what you do like. Remember that, right? It's not about looking at something and going, I don't like that. I don't like that. It's about what do you like of that and what can you call out, right? If you don't have anything nice to say, find something nice to say. And when you approach that in your life, you'll be so open to so many little details that maybe at first you shut off because you're like, not into vintage. Okay, this doesn't have to be. This could be colorful, this could be vibrant, this could be steampunk, right? Because inspiration is everywhere if you just keep your eyes and mind open to see it. That's what it is. All right.
Tim Talks are the best.
Well, you know, I just get there on a rant. It's like one of these days I'm going to fall right off on my soapbox and probably knock my head. But I've just been doing this so long, and it hurts my spirit to see people not only judge themselves but judge each other. I'm like, what is this world? Like, this is a wonderful, happy, creative place, and everybody needs to contribute their own imagination and inspiration. So Emma created this shrine. I love the festive nature of this. It's got little candy treats. It's got presents. There's Santa. I love seeing the drippy candles from Halloween. Remember, guys, these are Halloween. And I know you're still waiting for it, but when you get them, if you've ordered them, remember, use them for Christmas as well, because they are perfect for a Christmas make. I love how Emma used the collage tiles as that background paper. So how fun is that as a background, right? Because remember, these tiles are already done. So it looks like you spent hours patchwork collaging the outside of this, but instead, collage tiles already done, glued on. Little hardware, I love seeing that little tag from Ephemera, because I think we obviously did this in two sizes, the big and the small. Again, that etc. trim that created the ledge. I love the drippy candles in there. There's our Santa, and he's kind of built up. You can kind of see he's got a little support in the back, a little acrylic support. He's done out of a layer, so he's going to be perfect. And then the details, right? Little wooden box, cut up some of your wallpaper or backdrops and make little presents. There's the woodlands, all these trees that you've seen, whether they're pink or red or green, that's the joy of woodlands. They can all be color different. I love seeing the confections and then just wrapped in a little cellophane, right? I've seen Tammy do this before, and I love, again, the inspiration between the makers of just like, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. That's what it's all about. It's going to keep everything thriving and moving. And then that little detail. For those that are a fan of thimbles, I know Emma is, and I definitely know Paula is, they make great little buckets. They were actually released Christmas a couple years ago, and we put them in the line. I'm happy they've remained. These are part of the everyday line because they are metal thimbles, and they make beautiful little buckets for things, whether it's trees or candy or anything. So these Idea-ology thimbles are all different. They are charming, and I love just that little rub of gold alloy. Just what a beautiful, beautiful shrine, Emma. Love it, right? The plaque, because again, you have that base. Beautiful, beautiful. Where does the handle come from? This is the Idea-ology hardware. This is the mini hardware pack. So in Idea-ology, we have a pack of hardware that has the pull on Tammy B's, where she had that drawer pull, that knob. That's also part of the hardware pack. So all this hardware comes from the Idea-ology mini hardware pack. That's where it comes from. Great question. All right, moving right along. We're going to just keep going. I hope you guys are enjoying the inspiration. I told you, this is one where you just like sit back and enjoy the ride, because there is nothing better than that, okay? So next up, we're going to talk about, I'm going to just grab this beautiful vignette. So this one, I'm just going to, I got to just grab a hold of it because I don't want to dump everything out of it, right? So this one, Tammy B created. Oh, thanks, Mario. Gosh, you just went out and grabbed stuff. There's also another pack that has the knobs if you want to get the other one, because this one was retired, but I'll show both. When he comes back in, I'll show you guys both of these. So this is a beautiful make that Tammy created. I've just got to, hold on a second. I just want to make sure that I don't knock it over. So I apologize if I do. It's supposed to stand up like this, right? And this is all loose. That's why I'm like kind of fumbling with it. So Tammy created this. It's just a divided drawer, but she's used it. Oh, I'm just going to take that out. All right, there you go. You can see that she's kind of made a compartment out of it to create this file, right? So she's covered this area up. She put the divide in, covered this up. There's a tree. There are the little presents, little packages, right? And these are just wooden cubes that you can buy. You can find them at the craft store. Just get some wooden blocks and then just go in with your favorite papers, ephemera, anything, cut that up. If you look at the box itself, she did just like what Paula did using that collage paper. Isn't that beautiful? How you can see the wood grain through it, right? If you want this to be brighter, you just simply whitewash the wood first, right? With a little white, that's going to add the highlight. I love seeing all the layers of the paper. And I also love see those plaques with the little white crayon. Oh man, that font is just, that's everything right there. There's our tree, but then this is what it's going to house. And we've seen, again, so many junk journalers. Paula's done like a file thing, and that became this catalyst for, like, again, we see an idea and we're like, wow, that's really cool for Idea-ology. What else could we do when we're creating and adding elements to this? So these are all the mini file folders, right? That's what all these are. I'm going to put them back in, right? There we go. I love how they just kind of fit in that box. So when you take them out, they're like, each one is just going to have its own little story and detail. I mean, you can imagine the work into this make, but what a great way. Let's say you are doing December Daily and you don't want to do an actual album. What a great way that you can take the folders, do your collage. So here you can see the file folders. You can see the pocket cards that go on here. You can see all the clipping stickers. You can see the mini ephemera, the Flair, the paper dolls, all those details. Then you can even take the label stickers, and then inside, see, look at that, adding the photos. And I did get a little memo from Tammy that she constructed this where these corners are just paper corners that she took the collage tiles. What a great idea. Cut the tile on the diagonal, because remember, they're square, the collage tiles. Just glued the edges, and now they're little photo corners that you can change out the photos. They can just pop in. So you can create this for yourself for the season or someone else, and then as you have photos for the season, you simply pop them in under those corners created with the collage tiles. Isn't that brilliant? So good. And then here you can see, again, the collage cards. There you go. She even did a little place photo here, right? So using that, I love the idea of even using your ephemera and layers if you're looking for ideas of how you can incorporate something interactive. This is one file folder, guys. It's an entire thing. But another great use for the pocket cards. Take a pocket card, right? One size of the pocket card, glue the smaller size on the front, and make a pocket from the pocket card. Get it? Right? This size and this size glued, and now you have a pocket. Or you could take the longer one and fold it up and make a pocket. And then those can go inside here. And each one, just like there's a great little interactive element to it, right? Whether you add mica onto the layers or ephemera, whether you're using the stitch scraps, right? Taking the fabrics, and again, open them up. There's your little photo. I love that you can just insert that. Just again, all the little elements from taking pocket cards, and you have a place to put that. So this is something that you can definitely create, and you don't have to sit down and create it from start to finish. It's great to say, okay, I'm going to get out my folders, I'm going to get out my paper dolls, I'm going to get out my collage tiles, and I'm just going to work on these, and then I have a place to put photos throughout the season. Even this, just what a great idea to take those two cards, add paper dolls, add little snapshots in there, and just create a little hinge book just by sticking two of those together, right? So they're just bound by that other piece inside. So many different paper mechanics, right? Look at all those Disney photos. Don't get me started right there. It's so good. All right. So good. That's the beauty of it. I can just go through all of these. There's so many great details. And that's the thing to remember. It's all about looking at things and being inspired by the idea and doing your version of that idea, right? Saying, okay, I love the idea. Maybe I'm going to use different papers. Maybe you don't like any of this, the ideology stuff for this look. But if you did, it's a great way to show how cohesive everything is from photos and clippings and paper dolls and elements. Oh, that's from the Grand. Gosh, it's like a stroll down memory lane. I wasn't even there. Love it. See, I love how she's sitting in the wreath, right? You see the baseboard stars. Look at all that. Photos. This is really clever. Love seeing the patchwork of that too, right? Square photos of that. Gosh, look at this. Celebrate the season. All right, those guys, look at that. The backdrop, that's a little calendar page, but it looks like she went in and colored that. You see that? So that's that paper, that's the backdrop. So I'm pretty sure that it is, but I love how she kind of tinted that. At least that's what it looks like. Yep. Oh, so cute. I know where that is. That's California Adventure, right? Right under that tree outside. Yep. Outside Elias. All right. So cute. Look at this one. Oh, look at this. It's a little shakety shake. You know me. Get your shake on. I love that. So taking that, make a little shakety shake on this with the layers. Love seeing the paper dolls. Very cute. Look at this. So good with the photos of the tree. Love seeing the little tag. Really cool. Just all these little elements. Again, creating pockets, creating details. There's that group shot as well. Just a lot of fun. A lot of fun just to see all those pieces. Clever, right? So clever. So brilliant, so fun, and a great way to incorporate papers and folders. It is a fun project, I agree. And I love just kind of seeing that, just how repurpose that whole divided. Really cool. I know I'm like handing it over to Mario, like two-handed. Like, all right, safe. All right. I'm just going to leave that glitter there. So Sharon created these. Again, I put all the mini file folders together because I love seeing all the different ideas for these. Obviously, Tammy went and created more of that scrapbook memory pockets with that. Sharon for cards, right? These make perfect cards. There you go. You've got the card right there. Incorporate your favorite stamped images in there. Add that piece of paper. You're done. Just go in with your layers, ephemera, all of the same components that Sharon's been using. You can just change up your idea depending on what you start as your foundation. So you've got the mini file folder. Right here you can go in with layers, you can go in with ephemera, you can go in with the label stickers, you can go in with Flair, and then when you open it, again, stamped image, or if you don't stamp, you can just, it's a great way to I don't want to say this, but I'm going to. It's a great way to repurpose store-bought cards, right? You can find store-bought cards where you often like the sentiment inside, but the cover is garbage. What a great way to repurpose that. Buy the card for the inside greeting part, and then when you get them, chop off the outside, stick them on the inside of this, and zippity-doo, you're done. I know, I'm sure Mr. Stampers Anonymous right now is sobbing because I said instead of stamping, but really, you know, let's have a reality check. If you want to stamp these and color them, that's great, but if you don't, what a great time-saving tip to just have file folders, ephemera, layers, and then just already have a panel that's going to be cut and stick in there. That'd be great. But again, you can see all the little layers from wallpaper to ephemera, and that's why we always play around with surface as well. That's why we always play around. Because sometimes you want something textured and matte, sometimes you want something a little shiny, sometimes you want something thick and thin. It is all about building. If everything was the same flat paper, it wouldn't look like this. You wouldn't have the different reflections, you wouldn't have the different materials from plastic to metal to paper. That's what it's all about. So that's what I love about ideology, that we just have the ability to go in and just kind of see our muse on that, right? All right, I love it. So this one, I've yet to open it up. I'm fearful of that because it's loaded. It is loaded in here. This is a journal that Paula created using the files, and I'm happy to see it because she wanted those so bad. I'm like, well, I'm glad you made something with them, because it's very cool to see. And again, it's been a whole different idea. So this is a book constructed out of, so the foundation is canvas that she's done with the collage paper, because remember, collage paper can go on anything you want to put it on. It can go on metal or fabric or wood. I love that. And many of these makes also Paula does as workshops throughout the holiday season. She does different kits. I'm not sure how many other makers do kits from their makes, but I know Paula usually does a couple times a year, especially at Christmas time. So if you don't follow her, you can sometimes, I don't know if this is one, don't want to speak for Paula, but usually it's like kitted and how you can create this. But I love this journal. There we've got that baseboard window. I love seeing that little sparkle on the layers. Again, see, distress crayon on those quotes for the win. God, those plaques are amazing. And then inside, this book is constructed. So these are actually attached to the book. Not sure the mechanics behind it, but all of these are done with the folder. So this cover, this is, collage medium and papers, is everything from pocket cards to ephemera. So you can see these panels, the joy of pocket cards, that they're already cut, but you can still cut them down, but you don't have to, because you get all the detail of the rounded corners. You can do sewing, you can put them onto the metallic. I love seeing this detail that you've been doing, Paula, with using the metallic and just giving it that really great scratch. Probably some really nice grit sandpaper to kind of go over the top. But these mini folders are kind of nested inside to create little book signatures. And just all the collage elements, everything from little pockets with the little seals on there, right, with the crayon. See the difference that would make by just adding it to those quote seals. So you still get that wonderful wintry look of the seal, but the crayon really adds to it. And then just as you go in, just beautiful little elements from tiny clips and threads and little clippings, layers, rubs. You can see how the rubs work right on the edge of that. Then she's even made pockets in between there, right? So these are kind of seamed. There's a pocket, there's little pullouts. There's just so much detail in all of these elements. So this one, ooh, I'm going to untie it. I hope I can. Oh no, I don't have to. Paul's like, don't untie it, it's a bow. I didn't even have to read that, Paul. I just got it. So, because I was going to untie it, and I turned, I'm like, oh, there's nothing. Then I would have had to tie the bow. But love seeing how you can take that scene from a layer, put it with the frame. Clipping stickers really allow you to get your inner poet out, so you can create all sorts of wonderful things by combining all of those little clippings. The labels, see, the labels make a perfect foundation for the rubs. Now you can see why we did a whole pack of just labels, because they work. And yes, the labels were sized for the file folders. Everything is really thought out. It's important when it comes to designing that it's not just one idea that's isolated. It's about all the details. And that's really where Chris shines, because again, these patients were like, can you make that label this much smaller by this, because it needs to go on this that's angled this way? He's like, yep, no problem. But you see, those details matter because everything is going to fit together, from the quotes being cut apart to fit in the circle. That's a good scale for this. This scale of the pocket cards are going to work with the scale that goes into the folder. It's just all of those details. I love that. This is jolly enough. So good. I love the wish list. Great for gifts. So this could be a whole little holiday book. And a lot of people, even if you don't do mini books throughout the year, many people from December daily or little junk journals really get into that. I love that. You see these pocket cards are just everything. It's already done. It's kind of like the giant collage tile, really. I love that. I love how that wreath goes around her. I'm off to the North Pole. Brilliant details as always, Paula. And anything can be a pocket. It could be paper. It could be layers. It could be all of those elements, and you can add those things. Pointy finger for the win. Yep. So much fun seeing all of those layers. And then again, there's the back cover. Collage paper on canvas. It does have a nice rigidity to it by adding that collage medium, right? And then I love just seeing how that ribbon is just stitched on to tie the journal closed. But what a great idea for using the file folders, right? So you've seen them for cards, you've seen them for all types of things. That's what to me is like, it's pretty brilliant. And then this panel, Jan created this. So this is the vignette display panel. Now we're back to the inside of this. So far we've seen the innies and the outies. So Jan is back in. So if you look at the whole background, the back of this, of course, distress crackle paste in all its magnificent glory. You've got the collage paper. But then when you look at the background, so focus on the background first. I love how she did a patchwork, almost like a patchwork quilt with the collage tiles by putting them at an angle and doing that repeat. So instead of tiling them, it really provides kind of a quilt looking background, right? I love all the details here of the drippy candles with the candle stands, and she kind of added some bonus drips going down, right? Just take a glue gun, add some bonus drips and paint it. I love just the whole, like this whole little collage element of these beautiful Sizzix dies cascading down from the corner, kind of going into that candle, the baubles, all of that beautiful icy grit paste, so good. And mica, even some mummy cloth from Halloween, it adds a nice element. There's another one of those tin tops, right? Painted. So when you get the tin top, sometimes you'll put them down, you're like, oh, it's so shiny. Remember, you can do collage medium. This one has some of that icicle crackle. See how it's got that great icy crackle? But then this I thought was really just such a clever idea. This, guys, is a mini file folder. Put into the back of this, it's got a baseboard frame on the front, but this now created a pocket where you can put your elements in. You can put your favorite holiday photos that come in. Jan happened to use these wonderful, the photo booth that we did for paper dolls, but you could put in whatever photos you want by adding that pocket out of a file folder into the panel. Right? How great is that? That you can just create this thing, give it as a gift to someone, and they could, even if this wanted to be like an open frame, they could still slide a photo behind this frame and then add some other elements, right? Just great ideas for using all of the elements. And isn't it remarkable how all the makers used elements in totally different ways? Different ways, different structures, different substrates. That's what it's all about. It's about them doing them, right? You just need that. So Sharon created this framed panel. Again, you can start with the substrate. It doesn't have to be idea-ology. It could be a frame from a craft store. It could be something from the dollar store. It could be any substrate you want, but you can still incorporate those elements. So Sharon took the elements that she was using for cards, right? Layers, ephemera, baseboards, Flair, backdrops, and created this little collage in a frame with a tree. Love that stacked tree of just using those pieces. So if you want a closer look, you can see that there's a baseboard, that's thick, piece of ephemera, there's some ephemera, another ephemera, there's a little mini Flair, ephemera, there's a label sticker, baseboard, right, ephemera, and just stacked up. And just by dimensionalizing that and taking that down, what a great use even for all of your collage elements. So that's the other thing. And we have stuff, right? So I'm not saying you have to just use idea-ology stuff. You might have stuff that you've saved. You might have stuff that you found, vintage Christmas cards from a yard sale, or you've been collecting vintage cards that you didn't know what to do, but you didn't want to throw them away, but you know, you're not sure what you're going to use with them. Cut them up, use them. So yes, this is the product that's available because not everybody has vintage elements, but if you do, if you've got old packaging from your childhood, or you love to hit a good antique store or flea market and you've got these elements, use them. This is to inspire you to use the things that you have, or if you don't have them, a way to bring them to you so you can use, because just taking elements and creating a decor piece, done, right? Brilliant. That's what it's all about. It can be whatever element you want. This next little one, this just makes my holiday heart happy. I love this. Zoe created this little display dome. You can tell I love a display dome because to me, it's Christmas in a bottle. That's what it is. It's Christmas in a bottle. So this little display dome, there is mica in there. I'm just going to tip it upside down so you can see the mica flakes. Mica flakes are great for adding a little shakety shake snow. Because it's synthetic, it doesn't have a static charge like glitter would to go inside the glass. So this is just adding mica flakes that can go around. But take a look. So here, Zoe has that little snowman, and you can see it's got some glitter on there, right? So if you're adding some glitter to anything that you color, One suggestion is to go in and use resist spray instead of collage medium or glossy accents, because if you use any crayon or anything on there, painting a collage medium would take it off, but you could spray resist spray. Then you could go in with a glitter duster and you could dust it with glitter. Not sure if that's how she did it, but I just like to share little tips on how you can go in and add little hints of sparkle to things. But I just think that makes all the detail for that painted little snowman. It just gives them that little magic sparkle. You can see the snowballs, just beautiful. I love how it's a little combo of some glitter and some mica. And take a look at these wood slices. Let me move this snow out of the way. I love the idea of taking wood slices and stacking them up and using those smaller trees, right? Because if you take the woodland tree lot and you've got all those different sized trees, you don't always have to create a giant forest with them, but maybe you need height in there. And those wood slices really give you the ability to build that up in the back. And then I love the idea of taking one of those plaques, those wood plaques, and bending that to go around the curve of that dome, right? Isn't that cool? Love seeing that. It's just a great make because, well, you know me, I love Shakety Shake Interactive, but I just think it's super charming. So no, not everything has to have tiny lights. For me, this is about just sitting there and someone can pick it up and you're like, oh, it's a little snow globe. I mean, serious childhood nostalgia, but it's that little reminisce of holiday magic that is what it's all about. And just the detail of a little candy cane stripe twine or string. Great make. Love it, Zoe. Really cute, right? Beautiful. All right. What's up, Mario?
Oh, people
You're
were
looking
just
for
asking
something.
about bending the thing.
I think Zoe's going to share that.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Moving right along. We're in the home stretch of another basket, right? We're kind of in the last basket, but this basket is packed with details because these ones I kind of separated because I don't know, they just kind of told a story, really. They had a lot of story that goes into these elements, right? So Jan created this one. I'm going to light it up. Look at that. See, I love the color tiny lights. Love it, love it. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know why I thought this was a story. It just was to me. So I get to do me, all right? So Jan created this. Again, this is, you know, when you're looking at the divided drawer, the fact that it's got the divides, and this is what I'll show you. I'll kind of show you the mechanic. There's a little notch here. And in these divided drawers, they have the notch and they have this panel, and these slide in and out. So you could have 3 compartments, but you can see that so many of the makers just took one of them out and used the big and the small. It creates a whole theme. But I love seeing kind of this curled up paper. I saw Stacy did this at Halloween as well. I love seeing this detail that Jan did. That when you're collaging, if you really want to go vintage, don't glue everything down, right? Have it curled. Add some collage medium and water, add some crackle so it really just looks like such a wonderful deteriorated box, right? It really looks like an old Christmas box just by using your paper elements and curling and twisting and then hiding that distressed crackle underneath. I love seeing the backdrops, right? Look at that big, see, it just looks like it came out of an old confectionery shop, right? Because you have that, it just looks like a drawer that came out of that. But inside, of course, details. We've got the Christmas tiny lights with all the wonderful color, the magic in there, right? Then you look in the back, there's some icicle. Look at the little mini icicles over that calendar. Did I design it to scale for that? No. Will I say I did? Sure I did, but I didn't, but I love how it fits. So I love the icicles on that December calendar. In the back, Christmas Eve, there is Santa. He's got some little charms that he's holding on to. What a great idea. Just add those little tiny bells. There's a little seal in the back, but take a look at this. So Jan went in and took one of those tin tops and bent it to make like a box or a bucket to put that tree in. What a great idea to bend that tin. And now if you're doing this, of course, you're going to want to do like either tin snips or pliers, wear gloves. Be careful because it's metal, but it's very cool to see it form into a new shape. And then we go up to the top and you see the candy shop there. Love that. I don't know why I haven't seen that before. I guess it didn't click, but seeing that dome for the confection and candy, right? It's very cool to me. I'm sure I've seen it before, but I don't know why I've just noticed it. But then we've got, of course, all the little details of the little boxes, the little wrap. And I'm not sure if you're going to pick this up because Paula told me about it, but take a look at that cello wrapped chocolate Santa, right? So that is just the resin Santa that Jan painted brown, wrapped it in cello, and now she did a little chocolate Santa. I love how all the makers, so many makers have just done like this confection vibe with candies, right, from Candy Shop, but I love this. There's actually like a little tin, like a foil covered chocolate Santa that I have that I think Kathy did. That's the one in my tray. I've kept it year after year because I loved it, and it's fascinating to me. So beautiful idea, Jan, to take those confection, the resin pieces and just make it confection, right? So cool. And of course, on the edges, you've seen tape, you've seen wallpaper, but you can also do crackle, and you can also leave elements exposed. That's the thing to remember. Whether you're doing paper or inking, just creating that true authentic vibe is great. And then the bottom of this is actually one of the baseboard frames. These are the lace frames. This is part of the idea-ology line. So these are the frames, and you might have some of these in your stash, but it's got that wonderful lace detail. You see that? What a great foundation as a base, right? We've talked about the base for the vignette shrines, that you have that wider base that provides more balance. I love the idea of using that lace frame as a foundation. There's a little pocket card right there just to create a layer, but a very cool way to create that. So I don't know, to me, it just told a little story of like, Christmas Eve and Santa coming in, and I don't know. My imagination runs wild, but all the details, because details matter. Do they not? Yes, they do. So Marlise created this journal. Again, a little mini book, a little junk journal. And I love the challenge of adding some dimensional elements. So there's a tree. Remember, when it comes to the Woodland Trees, if you want to put it on something like a book cover, take your scissor, cut off the back of it, right? Cut half the tree, as long as you have the front that's still attached to the wire, and you can glue it to a flat foundation and still have the dimension of the tree. I love just kind of that white, snowy, it almost looks flocked. I love the swivel clasp with all the little dangly bits, right? Just on the side of that journal. Here you can see that icicle going around the frame, some of that grit paste, so many little elements. And then of course this book, this is just all bound together, a true junk journal, right? Just kind of creating. I love that Marlise creates this, beautiful. But when you open it, I'm just gonna take that ribbon out. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to, but I'm going to. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm just going to. If I need to thread it back in, I will. Okay, so when you open this, there was this little box, and I'm all about like hidden stuff. So I've got to get my little fingers in there. There we go. Look at that. Tiny lights in a journal. You guys see that? So and we've seen a lot of makers kind of cover that little battery pack, but I love how she just turned that into a little present. The little switch is on the bottom, and then that just allows you to turn the tiny lights on or off. So they're around the tree and they kind of follow that little frame. But how great if that little book is sitting there, because you can replace the batteries of tiny lights. So it can sit there and it's like, oh my gosh, look at this. And then as they open it, like there is the book, right? So can you add tiny lights to a junk journal? You bet you can. But look at all these great details of all these little pockets and pullouts. So much detail goes into really the junk journal makers of how many, if you just take one piece, right? One card, just look at all the elements that go into it. I mean, down to like the little torn bits of washi tape, the little clippings, the tattered edges of your ephemera. Every little layer, you just kind of think of that. And I think for those that really appreciate junk journaling and adding the layers, this is your escape, right? This is where you just take those pieces and you layer and you layer and you layer, and you do everything from rubs to stickers to little stitch edges. And then you've got all of these pieces to go into these great pockets that are built up from all sorts of different layers of paper and baseboards. I do love that tiny light package. But the fun thing, of course, is that, again, that whole deconstructed page where it doesn't have to stay within the foundations of a rectangle, right? You just get to layer all of those beautiful elements, take your label tapes, take your layers, and just all of those little torn edges reveal something behind it that is magical, right? All the little interactive elements to them as well, right? So you just get to see the little pieces that are revealed under the layers, all these different pullouts. And just as you turn every page, and again, Marlise is another one that will go on YouTube and just kind of take you through all the little details. I love the pockets with the windows because you get to see the reveal of what you actually put inside, right? Or you've got the tags that have that little window that you have a paper doll that can sit in. So cool, right? This one's got a little tiny clip. So I'm going to take off that tiny clip. Look at that. interactive, right? So that little tiny clip, there it is. Held that closed just kind of right at the end. And then you can flip that down and you have a whole nother reveal of another card, right? So if you think about it, this was kind of like the same mechanics that were done on that panel, right? That flip down reveal taken from a book, right? Or the panel inspired the book. Love seeing the eyelets and all of those. Look at all these little wonderful little tags with the loop pins. So idea-ology loop pins, these are great because they're big pins. Well, they're small pins, but they've got that big loop that just allow wonderful little dangly dang. Dangly dang. That's it. So cool. All right. All right. Let me grab these other ones. It's going to be a double hander, this one. There you go. I'll give that to Mario.
I think my new favorite is Bling It Up.
Bling it up.
Bling It Up.
All right. So this one's coming in hot. It's a two-hander. We've got this. All right. So I'll start with the aerial shot. So again, if you watch the lives, thank you. If you've been following the lives, thank you. Paula created a vignette at Halloween. This similar style, this similar lineup of vignette boxes and using the windows. And I did mention during that live, like, I hope you make a Christmas version. So thank you, Paula, for doing that. So now I'm just going to kind of set it on its side. I'm going to try to be as careful as possible. So this is the story, really. It's just kind of, I don't know, it's like the night before Christmas, or I don't know what it is. I'm sure Paula would know, but I just see a story in this. So the base of this is a vignette panel, right? You can see that. Covered in backdrop. That's what gives it that wonderful rustic red barnwood. Then you've got layers, but then all of these are vignette boxes with these wonderful baseboard window frames that we released at Halloween. So it's a Halloween SKU. And just how all these windows are like open, closed, they've got acetate, you could do mica, and there's so many little details in each one. And of course, they light up. Now, the genius of this, because I did talk to Paula about this make, is that all of this, if you look at the mechanics, I'm going to turn them off again, right? Pay attention to the windows and even that little lantern on the far right side. All this is done with one strand of tiny lights. So again, if you plan out your make and you know your little entry and exit points, even with a lantern, you can still wrap a tree, go in here, do a little backdrop around the candy, go up here, do another tree, go over here, and you've got a light for the lantern, right? So all you've got to do is just kind of plot it out. But there's so many charming details in this one. That little red lantern that lights up red, so cute in there. I love seeing the ephemera as a little kind of window shade in there. You can see the cork vials with all the confections. She's also glittered those. But see just the magic of those tiny lights, those color tiny lights, so good, right? And that's why we did the color ones, because trust me, when we didn't have these, I alcohol inked mine, but they just don't have the same intensity of color because the inks are too translucent, and that's why I wanted to do color lights. But you can see there's a little painted Santa in there. I love the little bit of that grit paste on the windows, the little star at the top. You go down here, look at the drippy candles, but how she added a little blingity bling to it, right? So they're glittery and sparkly. The bells, the stocking, this window with the other tree, and there's little packages in there. I love how the windows are open. You just imagine the chill of the winter air in there. But this one, I mean, stop it right now. Shut up. The little post office button. Look at these envelopes. I mean, that's my finger. That's an envelope. Look at that little stack of holiday mail inside. And because again, an ephemera or a button piece, that can spark the story. That's what I'm saying about makes. You can take an element and whatever story it sparks in your imagination, run with it. Do that. You're like, oh, post office, it reminds me of like maybe Christmas cards or mail. Well, make it. Fold paper, do some inking, do a little hole punch, make a little seal, make these. This isn't a die, this isn't ephemera. This is just made. So do that. You can create your story and trust your imagination. I love seeing just the window filled with baubles, right? So you don't have to attach all of them to a tree. They look beautiful just piled and clustered in there. And that little tinsel wreath, we've been trying to source this little tinsel forever. I love it. It's really, really charming. What a great, great make. All on this, this base of a vignette tray. So a wonderful holiday story, right? So amazing with so many details. Yeah, I wonder if this one's going to be a class. Paul, this should be a kit. I can only imagine it would probably take you and Jay between now and Christmas to do it, but gosh, it's cool. It's very cool. Yeah, for those of you that are asking interesting, I think her kit's up like in a day, right? That's what it hours? Yeah, probably. Yeah, we should talk selling out in hours. Okay. I always get nervous when I have like a detailed video. Tammy B, I hope I do this justice. If not, please correct me. Okay. Okay. I should have taken notes. Okay. I should have taken notes to this. So this make from Tammy B was inspired by A Christmas Carol, right? Now I've seen The Christmas Carol. I know a little bit. I can't say that I've read it, sorry, but I've seen it. But Tammy did a lot of different research, but there's just details of it that I think just, they captivated me, and they tell such a wonderful story. So if Tammy's here, like really, jump in and correct me. But first, before we even get into the story, we need to talk about this, right? So if you can for a minute, pay no attention to all of this little detail on the top and only focus down here, because you might miss it, right? So this base is the same vignette tray that Paula used as her base. However, if you look at it, it resembles a book, but it is just the tray, right? Smoke and mirrors. It's just the vignette tray, but Tammy created a vintage book. Now, it actually gave me just goosies when I saw this and she told me about it. I'm like, are you kidding? Like, that's just, I don't know. That's amazing to me just to see the details of actually creating something like as a book, right? And now, and she says she's going to do tutorials for this. She's going to share some things, but it's like chipboard covers, book spine. So that's the foundation of this because, well, it's Christmas Carol. So it was inspired by a book. She took vignette boxes and kind of created them like a juxtaposition all the way around. So let me fire up the lights because I think they light up, right? Some windows. I just got to get the switches going. Okay. Mario's like, there's a couple under there. Okay. So they're the ghosts of Christmas things, right? So I think it's past, present, and future, if I'm right. I could be wrong though. So, oh, she left me a little cheat note in there. There's a ghost of Christmas past, right? So we're just going to start with a beautiful vignette scene with that wonderful white snowy tree on the top. So this is the ghost of Christmas past, and you can see there's a salvaged doll in there, right, with the little crown. I do remember the ghost of Christmas past with the crown. But a beautiful, charming winter scene. Some details that just really captured me. Obviously, the postcard in the back, using the snowflake charms. They're the icicles again. But look at like what she did with the tiny lights. You see how like she put tiny lights and then covered them with batting to kind of diffuse that. So it really does cascade almost just like a haunting glow over the bottom, but in just such a magical way. All right. So Ghost of Christmas Past. And then as you turn, right, there's the snowman. I love what she did to the snowman. Just covered him up with collage medium, probably, maybe even some texture paste, and then just doused him in glitter. So he just looks like a snowman that's just been iced over, right, as we go through the journey, iced over. Now, if you notice all the details, that wonderful brick on the outside of each of these. So these are, you know, instead of like the storefront window, you just got like this whole brick siding theme. Then we go to Christmas present. So here you can see the tree. There's the beautiful drippy candles that Tammy inspired, of course. I love seeing those candles in there. And I love this, the die cut elements and the bow just makes for a charming thing. Now, some other details in here. If you look, of course, the tiny lights, hiding the tiny lights on the top of something is a great addition for a vignette, right? Because it does just light the scene. So it adds that glow, whether it's a backlight or a top light. But you can see in there, you see the urn, right? So Tammy went and did her tree, but she did that really traditional green, that sparkly glitter, the red ornaments, but that is an urn from Halloween. Same with the drippy candles. So using those elements, that's why I was kind of saying at the beginning, there's a lot of elements as makers that we're making for the season. And there are components that you can certainly use for Halloween as well as Christmas when it comes to working with this, right? And then you can look here and you see, do Do you guys see that? Tiny Tim. You see the little crutch? Unbelievable. So this, if I'm right, I'm not sure. Is Tammy B in here? I'm not sure. Okay, I'm just guessing that this is the handle of the Halloween broomstick, because that broomstick was made out of resin, and this is mummy cloth to create that little crutch right there. I mean, how charming is that detail? Maybe it's a real stick, but it really looks like the one from the broom because it's got all those wonderful naughty nuggety bits. You can see the wonderful brick, right? So we have the ghost of Christmas past,
Tim, is
Christmas
correct.
present,
You're correct.
and then Christmas future, right? Mortality, the death, the Christmas spirit carry within your heart. I mean, just, it's like everything's like light and cheery and illuminated, and then you just get here and it's like you see just that crutch leaning against it and just chills. But again, Halloween stuff, right? Taking that tombstone, the metal gates, that's part of everyday ideology. Just see how these new icicles are just, they're so perfect for so many things just to add on there. And then you've got clippings, another branch. All of these have different brick exposures on the outside. And then you go here and you can kind of see what she did on the outside, where she's got the chains and the locks, because you do remember that, and then just dead. So just the details, right? Eerie, haunting details. Beautiful. Now this came from something. I'm not sure what window it went in. I'll have to look at the photo. I'll just send it back to Tammy. But that's a detail. I don't know where that goes. But amazing, amazing make, right? Story. And that's really, as I was sorting these out, I just kind of thought, like, that's the thing to remember about ideology. And we do talk about that. We talk about that as makers, but I also just want to talk to you guys about that. Is this something you're going to sit down and make in 5 minutes? No, you're not. But is this something that you're going to sit down and make and enjoy every ounce of it? Yes. Because you can create a story that you love, whether it's Christmas Carol, whether it's A Wonderful Life, whatever it is. You can take elements and just let your imagination do its thing, right? That's the beauty of ideology, right? Just a thought developed by the mind of what ought to be. And that's what you can do with these elements, is make them what you want. I mean, to turn a vignette into a book because she wanted the foundation to be a storybook. Could you have used a book? Sure. But then you've got the mechanics of the book. You got to glue the pages together. I just think that's really clever to do that, especially to house the mechanics as a foundation. So bravo, just unbelievable. All right, I've got one more make to share. And again, another story. I just think it's just great, because this time of year, Christmas, it does just remind me of any time you watch, a Hallmark movie or Christmas. It's all about going to a tree lot. Now, living in Arizona, we don't have many tree lots like they do in different parts of the world. Pretty much our trees are going to be like, the parking lot or Home Depot or something like that. But I love how Vicky created this vignette. This is taking the vignette tray. So the trays that were used as a foundation, now you've got that to set a scene. But I love the detail. I love the chunky, gritty, greened crackle that created the foundation. And look at all of these woodland trees wrapped up, right? Just like you would get at the tree lot. And then how she took the vignettes, take a vignette box, but then deconstructed it and cut off just a top of it, so you can see the small box, to kind of create these bins for these trees to stand up in. These are the tin tops that have just been cut off. And again, if you're going to cut these, you need tin snips. You need to roll in the corners so they're not sharp. But I love how she used that, because it does give it much more of just kind of an outdoor look. It's just absolutely beautiful to see these trays. And that's the thing. So we've got vignette trays, vignette boxes, panels, because it depends on what perspective you need to tell the story, right? The thing about the trays is they're elongated. The thing about the new panel we did, well, it's going to be square. Boxes, much deeper. Shrine, point on the top, right? Drawer and box, going to be linear or big with divides. So the trays provide a nice foundation, but just take a look at the detail in the back. I love how she just strung the tiny lights, right? All willy-nilly on there, just going up. She used a little hook. And then these, of course, are the mini marquee letters that we have in the ideology line, and just using the tiny clips and that they're clipped on there. So you can see, I'll just kind of wiggle them back and forth. You can see how they just kind of hang there, and you can slide them across. I just think it's really great where it just has trees for sale. Then you've got the paper doll. There's our pointy finger in the back, remnant rubs, layers, pocket cards, baseboards, Just a very cool story. This to me is like, well, this is Christmas time. And I love all of the effects and details to all of the wood pieces, right? From the vignette boxes to the outside of the chippy crackle. It's just very cool. And just seeing the woodlands, we've seen many trees, right? I've not had a maker that just took the trees and wrapped all of them up just like that without decorating. But really, that's like serious nostalgia right there of going to a tree lot as a kid. I just remember that from California and just being able to pick out a tree, right? The lights were just kind of, and they were just cascading right across an area, and you just got to go in and you can smell it, right? Just pure magic, pure making magic. That is what it is. Every single maker, magic. That is Idea-ology Christmas for 2021.